Not yet.
No? Oh,
No,
Kyle's not ready.
Yeah.
I'm the deep.
Just hold off just a second, Frankie. Let's not go live yet.
I don't think we have a
shouldn't
choice
go
now.
live yet. I'm telling you. Oh my God, are we live?
Yeah, we're fucking live.
Oh,
Did you brush your hair?
Nope.
Don't scare me like that. I will literally.
He's kidding.
the
We're not
stream
really
and go
live.
Get that taken care of.
We're not live. No.
I will.
All those
pause
people
the
watching,
stream.
they're not really there.
Well, hello everybody. Happy Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Here it is. Other places.
Ladies and gentlemen, she is feisty and ready to go tonight. So she is ready.
Ready.
We are well, let me introduce myself first. I'm Kyle Curtis. That's Steve McRae. Well, I think he's over to my left this time.
I'm over.
Frankie is over to my right. Hello, Frankie. Frankie, show everybody your little thing that you got today, by the way. I think this is fantastic.
Oh yeah.
This could turn awkward.
Not too awkward. I have Jeff Sessions roll papers. I'll show that this camera too. So, yeah.
That is epic.
It's my favorite thing.
Oh my God.
Never going to use them either.
See, that's the tragedy. That's the tragedy. And obviously, we are joined by that godless bitch herself, the lovely, the beautiful Casey.
Hi, y'all.
Thank you. Finally, I have somebody that says y'all with me. I don't feel alone anymore.
Well, I live in Alabama, so I don't really have much of a choice. I also say bless your heart. I do.
We are.
I like that expression, actually. Bless your heart.
I do.
Steve, I think it's time you and I had a talk.
We have a talk. We need to talk.
Yeah.
Let's talk.
I mean, when you have this kind of chemistry, I'm sorry.
She's turning you straight, isn't she?
I meant more in the no, well, as lovely as she is, I'm pretty hardcore on my team. I think
He's that far gay. So, John, no worries. He's
yeah. So now I'm thinking about things that I shouldn't be and distracted.
He's thinking about the penis.
Shh.
Sorry.
Trigger words.
Sorry. I said it wrong, so it would be helpful.
Well, while we're in the middle of this, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody for people who may not know? I don't know why they wouldn't know who you are, but just for people who may not know who you are, what you do, and who you do it with. Not like that, but
well, this seems to be getting very personal very quick. I'm a little uncomfortable.
I told you we shouldn't have gone live, Frankie.
Yeah. So I am Casey, and I work on the Godless Engineer channel, Facebook page, Twitter, all those things. I make YouTube videos and things like that. I also organize the Faithless Forum, so that's pretty cool. I'm a director of event planning for that. And yeah, that's about all. I wasn't really prepared for an introduction because I just assume everybody knows who I am, right?
Well, that's what we do here. We spring things on people. We like to get you
Right?
in your
surprise questions.
But you
who are you and what are you doing here?
You bring up something that I would like to talk about a little bit. Tell us how the Faithless Forum went. It was, if I'm not mistaken, 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was on April 7th.
Tell us about that, how it went, what you guys did, and what you're planning for the future.
Oh, okay. Well, it is basically John posted in a Facebook group that we're in with a bunch of YouTube creators, basically that he wanted to have a hangout with people. And so that kind of morphed into a sort of mini con kind of event. And it was great. We had a couple of speakers. We had Anthony Magnabosco and Holy Kool-Aid. We had panelists. We had GM Skeptic and Prophet Azad and Telltale Atheist. And we just talked about atheist and secular issues. We talked about being in the closet and coming out of the closet as an atheist. We talked about impacts of religion on. Yeah, I know, right? We talked about the impacts of religion on society. We talked about how to communicate your message, because it was basically a conference for YouTube secular content creators. And it was amazing. We had great participation. We had about 80 people, which is kind of small, but at the same time, we planned it. It went from nothing to conference in 2 months.
That's impressive.
Yeah, so it was a lot. But it was a whole lot of fun. And we decided to turn it into a nonprofit organization so we can build it and grow. So this year we're taking some time to organize. We have a board of directors already. We're doing all the paperwork to get the 501c3 stuff together. We've got an attorney and an accountant and all those kinds of things. So we're working all that out, but we are definitely coming back next year with Faithless Forum 2 in Dallas again. I don't know when. We haven't really gotten to all of those details. We're just trying to get the organization together. So
excellent. It sounds like you're rocking it.
Yeah, we're having a good time. Drew, who genetically modified skeptic, he is our president, and the Godless Engineer is our vice president. So
how cool is that? That makes you Madam Vice President. Thank you for gracing us with your presence tonight.
Yes, you're welcome. It's an honor to be here.
Good, how much coordination it takes to have something go from concept to execution as well as it did. That's amazing. That's a huge thing across the board. All the work that people went into that put into that was huge, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was a lot. We spent a lot of time on it. We spent hours and hours on phone calls with each other, working through things. And it was great how we worked together because we kind of tailored everybody's jobs to their strengths, which really worked out well for us. We got along great, and we worked through any kind of issues that we had along the way, but it really came together nicely. And so we're really excited about working together in the future.
And Holy Kool-Aid gave a amazing talk during that too.
He did.
He did.
Yes, he is a great speaker. He's really wonderful to listen to. He used to be a youth pastor.
Yeah, and you know what? I told him he said that he used to do missionary work too, and that's so him. I mean, he's like the poster guy for a missionary, I think.
Yeah, he is.
But I think that is awesome. We look forward to hearing any updates on that. But you are here because about 9 months ago, someone made, and we're kind of late to this party, but I wanted to tackle it anyway, just because I found them very interesting. But there are apparently 10 questions that no atheist can answer. And since you are all about no bullshit, I figured that the perfect person to get to answer these questions would be you. And I don't know, Casey, do you think you might be able to crack these?
I think I can probably answer the questions. And look, I'm not afraid to say I don't know if I don't. So I think we're good.
And just so that we let everybody know, Steve had a really good idea actually last
the first one I've ever had. It was a good idea.
Albeit, it was what, Steve, like 10 hours before the show, but
it's
the ideas that count.
Didn't know we were on a time crunch.
But he actually reached out to the and I'm not familiar with the guy's name.
Inspiring Walk, I think his name is.
Yeah.
Inspired Walk. Inspired Walk.
But anyway, we'll link the original video down below. But Steve reached out to him to see if he wanted to be a part of the show. He was busy, but he did take the time to kind of explain why he thought these questions were not answerable. So what we're going to do is actually play the questions one at a time. We're going to let Casey go through and crush them. Spoiler alert. And then we'll see how he kind of thought the answer would go. And then we're going to have Casey tell us a little story time at the end to close us out. So
we're going to have story time with Casey.
I did tell you about this before, didn't I?
You did. Well, yeah, but I mean, we didn't call it story time.
Well, that's
I love story time with Casey.
Such a better name, though. Such a better.
I know. Well, so John and I do a thing, story time with Casey, when I start to go off on a tangent and like just completely off topic, I'll just realize that I'm doing it and I'll stop and be like, story time with Casey.
Oh my God, I need to record that for my phone. It's double the KC though tonight. I mean,
I know.
Realize
so we get her answering questions and story time. It's a 2-for-1 show. It's a doubleheader.
Yeah.
But with 2 KCs.
Yes.
Oh, with 2 KCs. Oh yeah, because you're KC.
Yeah.
King Crocoduck, if you're listening,
come on in. We need.
No, the internet would break, Steve. We can't do that.
Can't have too many KCs, right?
Just saying. We thought about it. Well, let's
there
go
can
with
only be so many of us.
Inspiring Walk's first question that no atheist can answer.
Yes. I love this music, by the way.
Do you really believe that science is the only answer to all of life's questions?
It's a toughie, the hard one.
Yeah. Do I really believe that science is the answer to everything, right?
Right.
Yes and no. Okay. So the point of science is to explain the things that we don't understand, right? It's supposed to explain our reality. But it isn't perfect. So there are things that we don't know. So, people didn't used to know how fire worked, how lightning worked, how, weather in general. They didn't know how diseases worked. But through the scientific process, we have figured out those things. We learn more as time goes on. So those are things we didn't used to know that we know now because of science. There are still things that we don't know. Like we don't know exactly why our universe started to rapidly expand. We don't know why that happened. We know that it happened, but that doesn't mean that a God did it. So, we're still learning. So yes, it answers. The idea is to answer everything with science, but no, it's not the answer to everything now because we can't answer everything at this point.
Ooh, I think that's 1 atheist's 0 inspiring walks. Steve, do you want to weigh in? Now listen, hold on, Steve. Let me caveat this, ladies and gentlemen. I know he is not an atheist, so he shouldn't be participating because he's agnostic. But we don't want him to feel left out, so we're going to let him participate. So everybody, be patient and don't forget.
Let him participate. I'm going to be called a nun because we have nuns as our theme, so I'm just going to be a nun. I get the little habit thing too. Is that what it's called? A habit?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
I'm going to get one of those. Okay, so let me read what he wrote first, and I'll kind of weigh in. And I think that was a very good answer, by the way. Okay, so he writes, indeed, science can answer many questions. However, science cannot be the only form by which we understand reality. Science is the study of the physical. Science cannot answer the spiritual or even all of the emotional and psychological issues of life. Science, therefore, is limited to only studying the natural. It ignores the spiritual. Attempting to use science to answer spiritual matters of life would be like trying to use geography to study how the brain works. They're not always related. From a Christian worldview or viewpoint, science helps us understand how God created the world and how it works from a natural viewpoint. I found that evolutionists or atheists tend to view life solely through science and totally ignore everything else. This always leads to error. This is the problem with his answer.
It's wrong.
Yeah, well, of course it's wrong. Does science answer everything? No, of course not. Science attempts, as Casey pointed out, science attempts to answer things using naturalistic explanations. We see it, we observe something, we see a phenomenon. We want to have a naturalistic explanation from it. He is right. We do use methodological naturalism. But science is not supposed to address things dealing with metaphysics or philosophy or anything like that. It doesn't have the tool set to do it. As Casey even pointed out, why certain things happen, right, may not have a scientific explanation. There might be a philosophical explanation, right? But science can't address certain things. Why do we exist? Can we break it down? Do like a reductionist approach and break it
to make the world more fabulous?
Possible. But I think what he misses is that science isn't supposed to answer everything. That's not what it's for. It answers the questions that when we observe something, what's the reason why we're observing this? What is the explanation of the phenomenon? That's what science is supposed to do. Casey, would you agree on that?
Yeah, I would. I would agree that science can't answer everything, and I don't think science ever will answer everything. But like you said, we're not trying to answer everything with science.
Yeah. And that's where I think the critical mistake that he makes is he thinks that just because somebody is an atheist, they must have a naturalistic worldview. And that's not true. Matter of fact, you don't have to have any particular worldview to say that you're an atheist. So there might be a dualist atheist out there. There might be an atheist that accepts supernatural. He's assuming that, oh, you're taking on that label of atheism. You must not believe in the supernatural. Well, there are some atheists that believe in the supernatural. They do exist.
I agree. There are some atheists that believe in supernatural. I'm not one of them, but there are some.
Oh, yeah, it's rare. It is rare.
Yeah, I don't understand it, but they exist.
I don't quite understand it either, but it does. It happens. Mm-hmm. So he kind of confused. He just lumps them all together, right? And of course, if you're an evolutionist, then you've got to only subscribe to naturalism according to him. Which again,
okay, live chat. Based on Steve's answer, I want you to press 1 if you think secretly he really is an atheist, because that sounds like an awful lot like an atheist answer. Or press 2 if you really think he's agnostic.
I don't know how you're using these words now.
Let's go to question number 2.
Number 2.
Okay.
If God doesn't exist, why do you care if people worship him?
Short answer is I don't. I really don't care if people believe in a God. I really don't care if they worship a God. What I care about is how religion, specifically religion, impacts society, how it harms people. Basically, people use religion to harm people, to kill people, to, spread dangerous ideas. And, they use religion to faith heal children, and children die. So those are the things that I care about. I don't care if you want to have a personal relationship with the tooth fairy. I don't give a flying fuck. But when it comes to religion and how it impacts society, that's where my problem comes in.
Excellent. And Steve, I'm gonna read his response, and then I'm gonna let you answer how from the agnostic rock corner. Why do atheists care if people worship God? Atheists preach atheism.
What? Yeah, that's a bust.
We should have queued up a very annoying sound for that right there. Okay. I'm sure that that Casey was going to have a lot to say to this answer. So just brace yourself, Casey. Okay. This is going to trigger you.
Oh, is it? I'm not easily triggered.
Christians preach Christianity. Evolutionists preach evolution. We all preach what we believe. I ask this question because atheists dedicate their time to prove a God whom they believe does not exist. If God does not exist, then he should not be a threat, and atheists should not be offended by someone they claim does not exist. Atheists sometimes claim that Christians impose the Bible, but the truth is that anyone who holds any belief system, whether cultural, political, economical, or spiritual belief system, is bound to preach his or her beliefs to others.
That is a lot. That is a lot to unpack, like a lot. Oh, sorry. Is it Steve's turn?
No, go me. No, please, by all means. Go ahead.
So I would really like him to define preach.
Thank you.
Exactly. Because I don't really know what he means. I don't preach atheism. I don't care if you believe in a God. I don't have any particular dogma to preach to you. I don't believe that evolutionists preach evolution. I think that's a little again, I think we need a definition of the word preach here. God, there was so much. What was the stuff that came after all the preaching?
I'm not sure. Where this video paused on, it just looks like he's sitting here looking at us going, are you sure about that now? Are you sure about that now?
You sure about that 5 minutes?
To deliver a sermon or religious address to an assembled group of people, typically in church. I obviously, it's not a sermon. It's not a religious address. It's not anything relating to the word preach. So I think he has an equivocation error across the board right here.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's using preach outside of its proper use, which is fine. I guess a lot of people do that.
Let's pretend like for a second, like we do know what he's talking about. So let me go off on a limb and put words in his mouth, because I don't mind doing that right now. But we'll say that he means in the sense that when you are in conversation,
you're expressing your beliefs.
Yeah, right.
Espouse
You're
it.
communicating. Yeah, express is a good word for it.
Yeah.
So if we take it that he means that the only thing that's wrong with that, though, is like evolutionists preach evolution. That's the biggest one that I have a problem with, because it's a fact.
Right.
It's like saying people go around preaching air. You know, like
he tries to diminish it into a faith-based thing rather than a factual-based thing. And by the way, I had this discussion
preaching air right now. Stop him.
On Twitter, I had this very discussion about the word evolutionist. Some people don't like it. I personally don't care. I'm an evolutionist. I'm happy to accept that title. I know evolution exists. I believe evolution exists because I believe very strongly that you can't have knowledge without believing something. It's just not possible. So I believe and I know evolution exists. Call me an evolutionist. It takes away the sting when creationists try to use that as a pejorative. Oh, you're an evolutionist. Yeah, you're damn right I am, and I'm proud of it. Let me explain to you why. That's just me.
Mm-hmm.
But other
before
people,
you do, Steve, let me say this. Before you explain why, see what happens when you go agnostic? You're willing to take on any name.
Anything, man. You call me anything, baby. Yeah.
He's agnostic about what to call him.
Ooh. Ooh. We're done.
So,
I think we can end on that.
Let's go home.
Well, no, I have another. But one of the thing that he said that why are we offended by God? That was one of the questions. Sorry, there were so many. It's hard to remember what they all were. I'm not offended by God. I'm not. I don't live my life upset about God. I'm not mad at God. This is a thing that does not exist. I don't care about God. Again, it comes down to the impacts of religion on society. I just don't care about the rest of it.
The key takeaway is the first thing you said, though, Casey, was the question of why do atheists care if people worship God? I think, generally speaking, if all somebody did was have a thought in their head, a belief that God existed, and it didn't have any kind of impact on society, nobody would give a shit.
Right.
Really, no. For the most part, nobody would even care. I'm sure that you'd have diehards. But for the most part, they're more concerned about how those beliefs influence them and society.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the conversation needs to go. You can believe whatever the hell you want, but if you tell me that my daughter has to learn creationism, is equal to explanatory power to evolution, no, you're wrong. You're done. Screw that. It's game over at that point. That's how I look at it, right? So I don't think that atheists really care if people worship God, as long as it doesn't affect society. That's how I would answer that question.
Oh my God, Kyle. This is like two things in a row that Steve and I have agreed on, and I'm almost don't know what to do with myself.
We're probably going to agree on almost all 10 of them.
Probably.
When in doubt,
I know he was all worried I wasn't going to agree with
space.
He was all worried I wasn't going to agree with Matt Dillon yesterday too, and me and Matt got along.
That's the nicest smile ever, right there. Look at him; he's just so happy.
So happy. I'm delightful. Did you not know that? I'm a constant fucking delight.
If you don't like it, I'll fuck you up.
Right?
Yeah, that's the way you got to do it, man.
My fuckers.
You got to do it,
Ladies and gentlemen.
Kyle's nice
Ladies and gentlemen.
Sweet, but as soon as Kyle
I don't
gets
usually
pissed,
ask, but pray for me that I make it through this stream. There will come a point. Thank you, Frankie. There will come a point where they will disagree, and when they disagree, then the internet will blow up. So just
like Vision by Zero. All right, moving on.
Let's see if we can go 3 for 3.
Seriously. Yeah. Can nothing create something?
I hate this one.
The classic can nothing create nothing.
I think we run into a definition problem here again, because nothing didn't create something, and science doesn't say that nothing, like literally nothing, created something. So he just has a basic lack of understanding of science. And I'm not super scientifically minded, so that's okay. But I think he just needs to learn some things, because that's not what science says. It doesn't say that something came from nothing, literally.
You hear that, inspiring? Well, learn some things.
And before you read what he says, I put a lot of the onus on Lawrence Krauss not being very clear in his book, which I did read. He made one fatal mistake in that book, and he actually says literally nothing. And people have been using that as meaning literally nothing, when he's still meaning scientific nothing as opposed to philosophical nothing. And I'll kind of explain the difference after you read his thing, Kyle, here.
Sure.
But I think if you sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think if you unplug Krauss from that and unplug what he said, generally speaking, you're not going to have scientists say that. Like,
Yeah,
they're
no,
not
I've
gonna
never
say-
seen one. There's no scientist that ever said we ever came ex nihilo from absolute nothing, as far as
Right.
there being a philosophical nothing. That science has never determined if nothing's even possible. More or less, does it exist?
Yeah.
Stop agreeing.
So, so I think his question is again is equivocation of that word nothing. He's using it in different ways, and instead of just saying, can nothing, philosophical nothing, create something? We don't know. We have no idea. Because we've never experimented with nothing. We don't even know if it's possible. So scientists are not out there going, "Oh, we were all created ex nihilo." They've never said that. I've never heard one.
Here's what I want you guys to think about while I read his answer. Let's try to arrive at a consensus or an overall definition of what nothing could mean, because I think the most
science or philosophical.
Well, that's what I think the confusing thing is. Like, if you're just like me, like, I don't think in the philosophical terms. Like, I don't do the P minus Q versus V times.
Yeah, I don't do that either.
So Steve, give us a definition that is nothing. Like, here's my question though. Before I read this, answer me this: why is there a difference between a philosophical nothing and a scientific nothing? Why can't nothing just be nothing?
Because in science, when we use the term nothing, we generally mean something devoid of matter.
So that's something.
Okay. But it also could mean devoid of matter or energy, or it could also mean devoid of matter, information, or energy. There could be many different things that nothing refers to, right? Philosophical nothing. Well, again, that's the whole point. When a scientist says, what's in the space between the nucleus of an atom and the electron orbitals?
Charge.
Nothing.
Well, not nothing.
Well, you have
Space.
fields. You do have fields, but there's no mass, right? They call that nothing.
Right.
They say it's a vacuum, and it's what's called a metastable false vacuum. So it means it's not a true vacuum. There's actually a lower floor of a true vacuum, and most of space is at a metastable vacuum, which is slightly above it. And what happens is you get these fluctuations called quantum fluctuations that exist ubiquitously. They permeate the entire universe. That's what a scientist means by nothing. Is this you're down to the base level between quantum level floor and the metastable false vacuum. And so that's what Krauss is talking about in his book.
I have a suggestion. It looks like science made a mistake by calling it nothing, because it is something. So I like the word
that's
that
his
Steve
chapter
used
9
there.
though.
Chapter
9 says that
call
something
it base
is nothing.
level. The space between molecules is base level. So, ladies and gentlemen, congratulations. You didn't come from nothing. You came from base level.
You came from base level. You came from quantum fluctuations. But anyways, read his explanation there.
Okay. I don't know if I'm ready. And now he's puckering up to me. Look at that. Look, see?
He's trying to kill.
Maybe you'll get another date.
Yeah, he's kind of cute. Why not?
Inspiring walk.
Oh,
you don't want to walk alone.
Yeah, hold hands. He says he likes long walks.
Krauss believes that the universe came from nothing. There is no observable proof that nothing can create something. If the atheist sees everything through science and not through faith, then why do some or most atheists appear to believe that life came from nothing? Nothing cannot obviously create something. It's not observable simply because it's impossible. Even scientifically, there is a cause for every effect. Someone intelligent created the order of the universe. That's a little presumptuous.
Yeah.
Someone intelligent and creative designed the earth that we live in and every creature that lives in it. What we see with our eyes, all the creatures, the sky, the different seasons, the sun that shines every day, etc., resulted from an intelligent creator.
I guess I would ask where his proof is for that. Like, he wants to
look around.
I think I'm broken. Like,
look around.
Parse that whole thing out for us.
This stupid broke me, damn it.
And by the way, this guy's a nice guy. He was very polite in his response to me, so I don't really want to diss on him. He was a nice guy, and I'm just going by what he's saying. But there's so many things wrong with this.
Well, I don't like how he started it out. Lawrence Krauss says, that's great. Lawrence Krauss said something. Lawrence Krauss does not represent all of science, and he does not represent all of atheism. So
he wasn't even talking as an atheist. He was talking about how the universe could have been created via scientific nothing, which again, quantum fluctuations. He wasn't saying, you know, we literally came out of this void of whatever nothing would be, you know.
Yeah.
So inspiring, Walt. We do think you're a really nice guy. We would love to have you on sometime. But if you insist on making the claim that Lawrence Krauss speaks for all atheists, then we will insist that Jim Baker speaks for all of you Christians.
God.
I think he makes another fatal mistake when he says nothing cannot obviously create something. Where's his data to support that? He's doing that by fiat. He's just saying because of prior observations, we assume that something cannot become from nothing. But there's no experimentation to demonstrate that.
Well, yeah, and we don't know. Like we don't know exactly how it all happened. But that again does not mean therefore God, and it sure as hell doesn't mean therefore his God.
Yeah, it's a kind of the gaps argument. What he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
we're doing very well, by the way, so far.
I know we're
awesome. About to hit number 4.
But can I add something real quick to this on a future? Yeah, great. For a future thing, I love when people say things like, you know, God created the laws of logic. We need to have a show on that one day because there's so many things wrong with that. Because that's even more based than God creating, you know, the universe. It's like, did God create the laws of logic? Then what happened before God created the laws of logic? It presents a whole bunch of problems.
He was base level. Make that trend, ladies and gentlemen.
He existed and non-existed at the same time.
I feel like Kyle's just going to use that all the time.
He didn't even have any laws of logic. Therefore, God existed and he didn't exist simultaneously. Okay.
How are babies made? Base level.
I know.
This is going to be a thing. This is going to be a thing.
Jungle Dragon says you can't make a baby. Only God can make a baby.
Oh, yeah, sure.
That's going to be our new intro. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Base Level.
Can't make a baby.
Okay. Let's hear what Inspiring Walk has for us behind door number 4.
Yes. You've never been to the ends of the earth. If you've never been to every planet, if you've never been to every part of the universe, how do you know that God doesn't exist?
He asks questions in the nicest way possible.
I know it really sucks. His questions are so bad because he's so honest in his intent to ask them, right?
I know, but I actually love this question, and here's why. Well, here's my answer. I don't know. I don't. I don't know that Yahweh doesn't exist any more than I don't know that Krishna or Odin or any other god doesn't exist. I don't know, but neither do you. So, like, you believe in your God, your one monotheistic, you know, God of the Bible, Christian God, right? Well, your Christian God is also it's the God of Abraham. So you share him, you know, let's just get there. But I don't know. You don't either.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer, actually. And I think that it should be pointed out for somebody to be an atheist, whether you're positive or negative atheist, whatever you want to label those things, it makes no difference as far as you don't have to say that you know God exists. In fact, very few atheists I actually know have gone out of their way to say, I know God doesn't exist. Now, they're fine to do that. They might be able to justify it in their own way. But it's not a requirement. It's not a prerequisite of any type of atheist to say that you know God doesn't exist. Right? There are a lot of atheists that say, I believe God doesn't exist, or they can say, I don't believe God exists, either way. But how many of them are required? How many people think that it's required to say, I know God does not exist to call yourself an atheist? It's not required.
No, it's not required. I mean,
and you're right. He has the same problem. He doesn't know whether his God exists or not. He believes. That's what it's called, a belief. That's what's a faith. And I am equivocating those on purpose there.
Yeah, and I don't think that gods exist because I haven't been provided any evidence that any do. So that's why I'm an atheist, because there's no evidence for them. But I don't know for certain. The same way he doesn't know that all of the Hindu gods don't exist.
But he'll say he does, I think, though.
He might say he does, but he'd have to answer the exact same question. Like exactly the same question.
Right.
By the way, Frankie, you're being too quiet during all of this. You want to hop in with some thoughts? Okay.
All right.
Silent Bob.
So let me can I
Hold
read
on,
what
I lost my place, guys, and I'm trying
I can read what he
internally
wrote.
to not act obvious. Just give me 1 second.
want me to read what he wrote?
I got it.
Okay.
I'll read it, and then you guys can respond to it. I'm gonna let you. I like where you guys are going right now with this harmony between the two of you. This is nice. I think that if we continue to go this route, then ultimately by the end, Steve will have a epiphany and realize that this entire time he's been atheist.
Damn, for all these years I've been atheist and didn't realize it. Shit.
This was Kyle and my plan the whole time. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. Rocks are agnostic. People are atheists.
Agnostic.
Stop being base level, Steve. Okay. How do you know God doesn't exist?
This might be my favorite video ever. Go ahead.
Surely the evidence of God is in creation itself. Suppose I stumbled upon a beautiful painting. I would presume that the painting designed itself. I hope that you can take the time to ponder on this particular thought right here. It's important. Even science cannot prove that God does not exist. There are so many questions that science cannot answer, because in reality, science cannot answer everything. Also, the absence of evidence does not mean that the evidence doesn't exist. Now, before you guys go in on this, let me put a thought out there.
Sure.
Why is it, and I'll get both of your thoughts on this, why is it that it seems nowadays, and this is, I think, pretty much a recent phenomenon, that if you are taking the side of the Christian aspect of it, your questions like that are posed here, or your answers, seem to be inherently anti-science. Now, I'm not saying that's what he means, but it seems like he's drawing a distinction between the religion and the science, where I think before you had religion trying to, co-opt science, like saying, well, without religion, you couldn't have the breakthroughs that you had with religion. So why now are we seeing such a split between that? Like it's either you accept the Bible and you do not accept what science says, or vice versa.
Go ahead, Casey.
I don't know. I just think it shows their biases, and I don't know. I don't know why they have to separate it so significantly. You can believe in God and accept evolution. I don't understand why more people don't. I work with people who are scientists, PhDs, master's degrees, and brilliant people in their fields who believe in young Earth creationism. And I can't square those things, so I'm really not sure. I'm really not sure why that's happening. Maybe they feel their religion is more under threat than ever because the world is becoming more secular. So they're swinging the pendulum, a little bit. I'm not really sure why.
That's a good thought. It's frightening that there are PhDs and doctors that believe in young Earth creationism. That's a scary thought.
We've had a few on the show.
Yeah.
Have we?
It's ridiculous.
But I think what they're trying to do is, obviously, religion has a high threshold to demonstrate their claims, and even epistemically, I think that they have a high burden of justification. Is it meetable? Yeah, okay, sure. But I think what they're trying to do is, instead of them making arguments to support their claims, they're trying to reduce science down to their level, and they're saying, "Hey, we admit we have faith, but you know what? You scientists, you guys have faith as well." And they're equivocating that word faith, because that word faith has two different meanings there. If I say I have faith in God, I'm using it to mean I believe something that may exist based upon my wanting to believe, right? Not because of the evidence per se, or even if there is some evidence, there's no scientific reason to believe that God exists. But when I say faith as I have faith in like math, or I have faith in science, or I have faith in my friends, that means that I'm having a confidence in them. And they're using that word faith differently to mean confidence. We mean it to be confidence, and they mean it to be the biblical version, which is things that are unseen. What is it? Whatever that passage is in the Bible, I forget what it says. Something along the lines of faith is something that's not seen but hope for anyways, right?
Well, what's interesting is the religious definition of faith. If you can't have evidence for God, Religion can never have
Right.
evidence for God. And the reason they can never have evidence for God is that because then you no longer need faith.
Right.
And that everything would completely fall apart. If there was ever evidence for a God, it would all fall apart.
The architects of
and you
religion
think
are
God-
genius, I think, in
and you
that
think-
sense. That
and you
they
think God
built
wants
such
to
a
be?
program around something that it's fail safe. You know, like
But if
Right.
God exists, do you think that he wants there to be undeniable proof of his existence? If there was, then why hasn't he given it? Because even thousands of years ago, supposedly when he walked, with man or something like that, it wasn't that convincing because, it convinced a lot of people, but it wasn't absolute certainty. Like, something, well, even today we don't have absolute certainty of just about anything, but he could have made it far more effective, don't you think?
Yeah, I think
Steve's an atheist.
Yeah, it would be a whole lot more effective. I mean, even just within Christianity, you have all of these different denominations that believe different things. I mean, their core beliefs within Christianity, I'm speaking specifically. You have, Jesus was the Son of God, right? Was born of a virgin. You have some basic dogmatic things that are the same, but so much is different even just within Christianity. And if you have an all-powerful, all-knowing God, like, it seems like it would be a whole lot more obvious what he wants. But like, if you go to one religion, you're not allowed to dance. If you go to another one, you're not allowed to drink. If you go to another one, you're not allowed to do something else, but it's fine in the other ones. And none of that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Because it's
Like
not
you said,
supposed
if God walked among us, there would be no need for faith in him.
Right.
And
Right.
That's the whole point of the Bible is to say, hey, you need to believe regardless of anything else. It's a matter of whoever believes in Christ, right?
Mhm.
That
Well,
was
and if
my
you
whole
have
crux when I
evidence of
come
God,
out of-
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Well, I was just gonna say when I came out of religion, one of the driving factors for me was if I'm a God that truly loves his creation and I care about them as a whole, and I want to do what's best for them, and I want to see as many of them come to me as possible, I would make sure that my first thing that I did was lay out a clear and concise record of what it is that I expect in order to, obtain everlasting life or to not go to hell. It seems like that would be the number one thing that you would want to put across. Instead, you're left with a book that is just rife with contradictions and things that don't make sense and things that there are denominations, literally hundreds of denominations that interpret one verse 4 different ways. So that would be my thing.
Well, it might sound crazy, but if you're an all-powerful God and you didn't want people to go to hell, then you wouldn't have allowed the formation of hell to begin with.
Right. It's none of it makes sense. It just doesn't. And if you, it all falls apart. You just pull it doesn't make sense. Religion does not make sense.
So
Number 5.
Yeah. So far, I just want to say, Inspiring Walk, you might want to change the title of your video.
Yeah, we're about halfway through, and all these questions have been answered actually in detail, great detail, and probably could have spent a show doing just on one question. I mean, if you really wanted to get into some of the
You
more
probably
technical
could.
stuff. You probably could, yeah.
Okay, Frankie, let's roll with number 5.
What is the origin of life?
He's so intense.
I know. So I've told you, Kyle, I'm not a scientist. Well, I mean engineering, but like I'm not a biologist, so I don't know.
Just pretend.
Well, yeah. So basically, like the current research suggests that early Earth was a really good, favorable setting and atmosphere for chemical reactions between basic elements, creating more complex basic compounds, then more complex compounds, which formed into, different kinds of proteins and things, which formed into RNA, which led to DNA. So like there's a line there, right, that they've laid out. I don't know all the details because I'm not a biologist, but just because I don't know them doesn't mean that somebody else who is an expert in that field and science can't explain those things. Again, we don't know every single thing, and we haven't been able to replicate every single thing, but we know a lot.
Steve, we are in the dark a little bit. Can you get us out of this base level?
Yeah, the way I would approach this is this, and I have a very small, short, structured logical argument that I use quite frequently, and it goes like this. At one point in time, life did not exist. Life exists now. Ergo, conclusion, at some point in time, non-life became life, abiogenesis. Whether that was because of chemical reactions, whether that was because of naturalistic means, whether that was because of God, is irrelevant. Life came from non-life. Now, here's the problem that I run to when I hear like questions like, what is the origin of life? Because Casey hit the nail on the head. Nobody freaking knows. and positing a God doesn't get you out of that dilemma. The reason being is because if we all agree, Christians or atheists, agnostics, whatever, all say, yes, life came from non-life. At least science is trying to look for a naturalistic explanation, a mechanism by which that occurred. If you posit God, you still run into the problem. What is the mechanism God used to create life?
Well, he shit everything out.
Yeah, that's not. But see, that's as you and I both know.
That is such the visual in my head.
It has no.
You're welcome.
Power, right? Even if you just say God did it by his, he spoke it. I don't know how God speaks, but no air. He speaks something before there's even an atmosphere.
Like this.
And there was light before there was a sun.
There's no explanatory power by positing a God. And worse is that they believe like the literalists will say that man was created from the dust of the earth. Well, I think that's far less explanatory than saying, well, there might be chemical reactions, and you have RNA that has been can self-replicate, has self-polymerization properties, and montmorillonite acid as a catalyst, and you can get all the abiogenesis stuff. And you know what? I think they're getting close. I think in maybe a couple decades they might have a mechanism by which life came from non-life. I don't see in 20 years theists being any closer.
Yeah, they are getting really close. We know a lot. I mean,
yep.
we don't know everything, and we haven't been able to replicate everything, but we do know a lot. I don't know a lot about this particular subject, but science has explained a lot.
It's worse when they go back to the 70s.
His answer, let me just say this, okay? One thing that we can know for sure is that we were not created the way that he is going to claim that we are. And how do we know this? Because of creation proof number 1.
Is he a younger creationist?
Elephants cannot produce pine trees. This is direct from Kent Hovind.
That's a fact.
That is a fact. Mythbuster.
Is he a younger creationist?
I don't know.
I would assume so.
Let's
but
see if we
who
can
knows?
find out.
Okay.
Many Christian scientists will tell you that they know the origin of life. Christian scientists will tell you that it's God. Even someone as famous as Albert Einstein became a theist because, if truly appreciated, science should bring you to the fact the universe is not an accident, but it is the result of intelligent design. Anthony Flew, a former atheist, admitted the existence of intelligent design as a result of the structure of DNA. He did not become a Christian, but believed in intelligent design. Okay, now let me tackle that one.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous to put that a former atheist admitted as if he had this news prior and was keeping it inside.
Actually became a deist.
Didn't want anybody to know. But he admitted that the design was God-made because of the structure of DNA. However, possessing this knowledge that it was intelligently designed, he still committed himself to atheism.
Well, Anthony Flew is a weird thing because Anthony Flew actually became a deist, so he doesn't even support the theist position, right?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm pointing out. And he says this. He admits it himself.
Anthony Flew's own argument, Presumption of Atheism, that he wrote in 1972, he didn't even believe himself, and so it's kind of weird. He was using it, I think, in more of a sophistry type thing, and I think it's a very poorly written paper. I think there's a whole lot of flaws with Presumption of Atheism.
But Steve, listen to this. Listen to this, Steve. He says in his response 3 times, I'm counting, many Christian scientists will tell you. Many Christian scientists will tell you. Christian scientists state. So he's just citing that. Of course, Christian scientists are going to tell you that it's intelligently designed.
If they're a scientist, they are going to be adhering to methodological naturalism. They want to know a naturalistic explanation. Like if I say, hey, Casey, what's the explanation of lightning? You're not going to say, well, Thor did it or God did it. even though you can boil everything down to God, but you're going to be like, oh, well, lightning's cause, clouds and charge and all that, right? How is somebody saying God is an explanation for anything? Because God explains everything. It's an explanation for nothing, and that's the case.
Well, so what I've heard from a lot of Christian people is Christians who are more science-minded. Let's go with that way of saying it, is that they accept evolution and they believe that it happened scientifically like we all say it happened, but that God started it all in the beginning. So which I find interesting, because as we learn more, religion basically has to back up more. Like the farther we can go back into time and into the beginnings of the universe and the beginnings of life and all those things, the further we go back, the farther they have to back up and say that, well, God did it here. God did it at this point. God, I guess he didn't do it at that point, so he must have done it at this point. And they keep having to back up. They have to keep backing up because it's not real, essentially. So
yeah, but even when he answers, I mean, the way he words this question, like, what is the origin of life? Does he mean metaphysically or does he mean biologically?
I think he means, how did life begin?
I think there's interesting questions when it comes to existence. I think that does obviously fall into metaphysics, and I think philosophy is fascinating. But I don't think that's how he's I think he's asking it that way, but then he's wording it via, well, how do he's talking about science. And so how do origins of life start? Well, that falls under science if you're talking about biochemistry, and it falls under philosophy if you're talking about existence. So I think he's vague here.
What else is new?
Yeah. Surprise, right? Shocking.
Okay, let's roll on with numbers. Where are we at? 6, I believe?
6, yeah.
This one.
Oh, yeah.
If humans are animals, then where does our sense of justice, where does our sense of morality, where does our sense of what's right and what's wrong come from?
A little bit of me dies every time I hear this.
Okay, KC, since you are just an animal, and a lovely animal, I might say, but since you are just an animal, where does your sense of justice come from?
Well, so
where's your morality coming from?
I'm going to comment on the beginning of the sentence. If humans are animals, I'm not even going to talk about it. I just want to address how ridiculous of a way that is to start this question, because it has nothing to do with his question to begin with. Anyway, so morality. Let's just talk about morality, because justice, I mean, whatever, but morality is not objective. It's not. Morality is completely subjective, and it's based on where you live, what time you live in. It's, what era you live in, because it changes. It changes throughout time, and there is no single moral that is there's no single objective right and no single objective wrong. There has never been one. So where do we get our morality? Societal norms.
Walmart.
Yeah. No, I don't shop at Walmart. I mean, I do if I have to, but I'd prefer not to.
Walmart, the side note, just to go on track, Walmart's genius, because I go in all the time. Like if I need a hammer, I'll go in for a hammer and I'll come out with a pack of gummy bears and a new comforter.
Yeah, that's what they do. They fuck you up.
You always come out with everything that you went in there to begin with.
You know what you never come out with? Walls.
Or morality.
Yeah. Well, Walmart is that's basically like hell, right?
It could be. You know what?
Yeah.
In the South, it is. You don't want to go to Walmart.
That's probably a level of hell.
Yeah.
You're in,
if
you're
you
in
had to
line
spend
at
an
Walmart with no
eternity.
Wi-Fi.
Yeah, if you had to spend an eternity in Walmart, that would be pretty fucking hellish.
With no Wi-Fi.
Right?
But this is one of those questions that I kind of might differ a little bit, right? I have no problem with objective morality, or especially like moral realism. I know people that are moral realists, right? A lot of atheists that I know are moral realists, and a lot of them do accept objective morality. But the problem is when people hear that term objective morality, they automatically, because theists have done this, the narrative they put out, say, oh, well, if you believe in objective morality, you've got to ground it in a God. Well, no, you don't. There are ways of grounding it in human nature and societal things. There are various ways to justify having an objective moral approach. That's fine. I don't care whether somebody's objective morality or subjective. It makes really no difference to me. The problem I have with this question is again, he's asking where does morality come from, and he's relating it to animals. Where morality comes from is a metaphysical question. It's a metaethical question, right? And so it doesn't have, he's not even relating anything to metaethics here. What his position is. He a moral realist, anti-realist, subjectivist? Nothing. All he's saying is, look, you're an animal, therefore you can't have morals. They're completely unrelated to each other. We are biologically animals. There's no question about that. It's a taxonomic classification. We fit the common things of what we say. Hey, what does biologically, what does it mean to be an animal? Well, we're animals because of that. It has nothing to do with existentially where our morality came from. And if you want to argue throughout evolution, you can. And you can say morality comes from evolution in some ways. Sure. In fact, without a societal things where we say, hey, this is harmful to our society as a collective, group, then, as a higher functioning animal, which we are, we have decided collectively that certain things are not appropriate to the benefit of the society. And I think it was Sam Harris and a few other people make similar arguments. That's fine. But what he's saying is that, oh, you're an animal, therefore you're the same as any other animal. They don't have morals. Well, I disagree. I think that animals do have morals. I think they have empathy. I think they have cognitive thoughts. I think they have self-awareness. I think that they're very intelligent. And so he's just by saying, just arbitrarily saying, well, you can't be an animal and have morals. And I think that's completely absurd.
I agree completely. That's one of the things I was going to say. Like, animals demonstrate those kind of behaviors as well. So it's not like animals have rocks for brains. Like animals some people do.
We might have evolved from a rock. That's the argument I use. Hey, we evolved from a rock. Look at this person over here. Yeah, that's actually not too bad of an argument.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry. Sorry, Casey.
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say that, like, we can observe animals behaving with moral structure, with justice, with, like Steve said, with empathy. And so I just feel like even if these things are not connected, but even if you connected them, he's still wrong.
Right. Exactly.
Let me stir the pot a little bit. I saw the crack here finally, on question number 6, between the two of you. So
I don't think we're really disagreeing.
One of you believes in that there is no objective morality. One of you.
Hang on, no, wait on. No, don't straw man. I don't believe in objective morality.
Hold on. I'm not going to straw man you. I'm gonna ask you a direct question. Mm-hmm. Can you give me or KC, because I tend to agree with KC on this. Can you give us, may not be yours, but what would be an example of what somebody might consider objective morality?
Killing babies for fun is the one they use the most often.
Okay.
But see,
how would that
again,
be objective?
But so people think it's objectively. So you're saying people think it's objectively wrong to kill babies?
Yeah, it's not so much. People think this weird thing about objective morality has to be like ingrained into the universe, and that's not what it means. Objective morality means it's mind independent. It doesn't matter what anybody actually thinks one way or another. It is a moral fact, and you have to determine whether moral facts exist or not. Right? You could be a moral realist or a more anti-realist. I'm tending right now to go to moral error theory the more I look into it. And the error theorist says that there are no objective facts because they're all wrong. All moral facts are untrue. And the reason they say that is because of what's called an argument from queerness. And I'm not very good at this, man.
Hey, I'm very good at the argument from queerness.
But the way I understand the argument from queerness, and I find it fascinating, is that moral propositions are unlike any other proposition.
Not fascinating, fabulous.
Fabulous. They're fabulous. Yeah, more arguments than fabulous. Moral propositions are unlike any other proposition we know. And so when we take something and say, like, stealing is wrong, okay, the error theorist says there is no property wrongness that actually exists that we can instantiate and to take that objectively and put it into the word wrong to say that stealing is wrong. It doesn't have any property of wrongness, and therefore there's an error there. And that kind of makes sense to me. I also like ideal observer theory too, but that's completely opposite these theories as well. That's opposite the more realist, opposite the more subjectivist. But I find value that these meta-ethical positions make sense to me. It doesn't mean I have to subscribe to a certain one. But I find it difficult when certain people, like this guy, thinks that you have to have one meta-ethical position and the rest are all wrong. I see value in a couple different positions, right? And if somebody like Casey says moral subjective, she could probably justify that, and that's her position on it, right? But when it comes to medical positions, I don't know if there is even any right or wrong answer. You know,
there is a wrong answer.
Oh, that's all how you view it. If you want to say that moral propositions exist, fine. If you want to say that they don't exist, that's fine as well. As long as somebody's consistent in their beliefs, I don't think it makes much of a difference to me.
There is a wrong answer here, and I'm about to read it because Inspired Walk gives it to us. Okay, this is the wrong answer.
This is the wrong answer.
This is absolutely the wrong answer.
Wrong.
You're gonna know when I read it too.
This is
just
wrong.
Every sentence in this is wrong. The nature of humans is far more complex than animals. Humans have a soul. 2 incorrect sentences. Let's see if we can count. Humans are more than just animals. 3 incorrect sentences. Only evolutionists believe that we are animals. 4. The belief that humans are animals opens the door to many moral and controversial issues than those of a religious person. 5.
Yeah, so
every sentence you failed on this one, Inspired.
Yeah. Total fail.
Yeah. Again, he's not understanding what it means to be called an animal, right? I mean, he's relating brute animals. A brute animal is any animal that's not a human. So he's differentiating between brute animals and humans, which there is a differentiation there. Obviously, brute animals is everything but, any animal but a human. But biologically, guess what? We are without question animals.
Yeah. And just because there's a difference we addressed it before, just because there's a difference doesn't mean that they can't have some of the same characteristics, like as far as moral, a moral or empathetic,
absolutely,
behavior goes. But can I go back to the killing babies?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's
because
I don't think I could ever say yes. We can go back to the killing babies part.
Well, it kind of goes back to what Matt Dillahunty has objective morality arguments, and he relates it to, I think, more virtue ethics and like well-being and stuff like that. And it gets into some nuances that I am not that heavy into, that I probably would be the last person to.
Well, let's get into them.
Articulate them.
So
you want to get objective morality, a person who actually advocates for objective morality here, they probably do a lot better job at explaining objective morality.
We can speak for them. It's okay.
Well, I just want to address the whole killing babies is objectively wrong.
No, killing babies for fun.
Killing babies for fun is objectively wrong. Okay, so we're like super detailed in here, but that's okay. I think I can still go with it.
Now we're getting good.
And I'm going to use the Bible to argue and say that you're wrong. And I'm going to do that because in the Bible, God kills all kinds of babies for fun.
Did he do it for fun? Did he say, I'm having a fun time here?
I mean, why would he? I don't know. It didn't seem like he cared anything about it. I mean, I don't know if he was like hooting and hollering.
But
it doesn't say he didn't.
Being dispassionate is not the same as the killing babies for fun argument. I think that originally started with, I think, did Matt Slick actually, I don't know if he created that, but he's one that uses an awful lot, isn't he? Killing babies for fun.
But if you're God, there's never really a good time to kill babies, I don't think. Call it fun, call it anger, call it whatever you want.
Matt D. Bartis.
It's just a dick move.
That sounds right. Because in the moral landscape.
But he chooses to do it. He chooses to do it.
That doesn't mean he's doing it for fun.
Hold on. Let's not talk over each other. Let her finish the sentence, and then
somebody says, "Can I go back to killing babies?"
let each other finish a thought, and then we'll go into the other one.
And I get if you add for fun into it, it's a little more difficult, but you're getting like really specific into that. We don't know if it was fun for God or not, right? In the biblical story, but in the Bible, it's okay that he did that. Like in the Bible, it's okay that the Israelites went through all kinds of villages and towns and killed everyone there, including the children. And that's okay. Like they did that and they had good reasons for it, right? According to the story, they had good reasons for it. Because if you don't kill the babies, if you don't kill all the kids, they'll grow up and they'll resent you and they'll want to get vengeance, right? So you have to kill the kids. Is it fun? I don't know, but I don't think it matters. The the moral is it's wrong to kill kids. It's wrong to kill babies.
Yeah.
But in the Bible, it's not wrong.
Hold on.
But in the Bible, it's just not wrong. Like, I mean, it's wrong sometimes, but it's not wrong other times, because, you know, you have the thou shalt not kill, but they definitely don't follow that shit. So
I feel weird that we're arguing on whether or not God had fun killing kids. The fact that he killed
saying that because when they grow up, it takes away from the caveat for fun. At that point, it's not for fun. They have a reason why they kill the babies.
But they're still killing kids. I don't think it's a moral issue whether you kill them for fun or you kill them because you have a reason.
But the claim isn't killing babies. That's not the objective morality claim, right? The objective morality claim is it's objectively morally wrong to kill babies for fun. That's the claim. You can't just.
That makes no sense to stand on that. Yeah,
but does the intent matter?
But Sam Harris would have probably argued for that.
That's weak. I don't. Well, Sam Harris is weak.
I think Matt Dillahunty would probably argue as well. But again, you have to get somebody who actually stands for that position to argue it. I don't argue that for that position. I don't argue objective morality.
I would love to
I'm
have
not the person to go to for that.
Come defend that position, please.
I think you guys need to have a show on it. I think you guys need to have a show on this.
I would love to, and I suggested to him earlier. I wanted a few show. I want to do one on tag. I really want.
How do you market that though? How do you market a discussion on killing babies? I don't think
it would be on objective. It would be on morality objective. Yeah,
okay, I'll have to consult our PR and legal team to see if this is.
Well, let's find somebody who advocates for objective morality. I'm sure there's a few at the and by the way, find an atheist one that would be better.
Oh, sure. That's gonna be tough.
I think Ozzy advocates for objective morality in some.
I hope not, Ozzy. I look up to you. Don't be a baby killer that has fun with that. Don't do that.
No, I don't think Ozzy is advocating killing babies, but I think if I remember correctly, he had an argument for objective morality, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, you guys should clarify your point then.
Yeah.
Moving on to number 7.
I don't think the argument is let's go kill babies.
Frankie, before you play number 7, let me caveat this by saying this. Okay. This is such a clear and cut question to him that he has one sentence to sum up his answer. So I'm going to read it before.
Wait. Hang on. I got a title. Is killing babies for fun? Next time on Non-Sec, Fury Skeptic.
I'm disturbed that I've tried to move on from killing babies 4 times now, and I keep getting dragged into killing babies.
Fun. Yeah, is killing babies fun? Yes.
Number 7 is a good question, and I'm surprised he has a 1-sentence answer because, I have a lot.
Okay, Frankie, play number 7, and then I'll read his answer, and then Casey, you can respond to what he says.
Okay.
If you were given irrefutable evidence that the God of the Bible is real, would you become a Christian?
I believe this is a straightforward question.
Okay.
That's his answer.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay. So I actually listened to this beforehand and I took a few notes. So can I read you because I break down this loaded question a little bit.
Does it contain the words baby and kill for fun?
It does not. It does not.
May proceed. Absolutely.
Okay. So first of all, the God of the Bible is a shared God. Right. So if I was given irrefutable evidence that the God of the Bible existed, we'd still have Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Right. We've got the God of Abraham. So we'd still have that. All right. And that God would have more proof than any other God. But what this does is it substantially increases the likelihood that other gods exists. Right. So all that being said, no. If I was given irrefutable evidence that a God existed or that the God of the Bible existed, would I be a Christian? Abso-fucking-lutely not. No.
Amen.
It does not change my choice to follow an organized religion or not, because I think religion is bad. I think it's harmful and I think it hurts people. And all this would change is the fact that I would be Gnostic about the fact that the Abrahamic God existed. That's all that would change.
Yeah, I really want to
turn agnostic.
No, Gnostic.
No, Gnostic. I would be Gnostic.
Yeah.
about
she's
the
using,
fact.
she's using the word to mean knowledge.
Hold on, dummy alert here.
What?
Dummy alert for me. Explain.
Oh.
I need the difference between the
Gnostic generally refers to 2nd century Gnosticism. However, some people use it to mean the word knowledge. And so she's using it to mean once she has knowledge of God, would be a Gnostic, not a Gnostic, but a Gnostic with a G, atheist, meaning she knows God exists. Actually, that would mean
I wouldn't be an atheist. I would just be Gnostic.
You'd be a Gnostic. All right. Okay.
Yeah, I would be Gnostic. Well, not a Gnostic. I would be Gnostic because you can be Gnostic or agnostic about anything.
You would be a theist if you knew God exists. You have to be a theist, whether you worship or not. It's a different question.
Right. I would if I had irrefutable evidence that the God of the Bible existed, I would be a Gnostic theist. Yeah. Everyone would, right?
Yep. I agree.
But that doesn't mean that everybody still wouldn't follow their own belief system as far as like what, because here's the thing, if there is irrefutable evidence of the God of Abraham, there could be other gods. I feel like if we had irrefutable evidence of one God, it increases the odds that there are others. It doesn't necessarily mean that there are.
Easy and even, yeah.
But they definitely could be. That opens the door a lot more.
Yeah, and I think you really hit the nail on the head when you said, because this is a malformed question to me as well. It says, if you have evidence of God, would you become Christian? Well, the problem I have with that is, if you have evidence of God, would you become Muslim? If you have evidence of God, would you become any of the Judeo-created, Christian religions, right? It doesn't specify, right? So if you have evidence of God, would you become, asking to him, would you become Muslim?
Well, so here's the thing. Well, yeah, here's the thing that I find with Christians is that they, despite the fact that there is no way that they can possibly argue this with any kind of facts behind them, the Abrahamic God, their God, the Christian God, is also the Muslim God, is also the Jewish God. It's the Abrahamic God, and they all share it. Just because one calls him Yahweh and one calls him Allah does not mean that they are different. They are exactly the same. And also, but they hate that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, though. But you're spot on with that. And also, let me say, to become a Christian, I love that. According to their own narrative, Satan has evidence God exists. Is he a Christian?
No.
There you go. So it's kind of a self-refuting question, isn't it?
The question is ridiculous.
It's malformed. It's completely malformed.
Yes,
and I love the way Kyle put it, because the guy was like, "There's only one. He only has one sentence to this question." And it's bizarre because he's just like, I believe this is a straightforward question. No, walking.
Do you know why I think he does that?
It's not straightforward. It's malformed.
I'll tell you why.
It's one of the worst questions he asks.
Well, this is why he doesn't have a retort like he does to the other one. And it's the same thing that buried Ken Ham in the Bill Nye debate that he had. It's the crux of the when you ask this question, when you return this question to a Christian, is there any evidence that we could show you that would refute the existence of God? Would you change your mind? And they can't touch that question.
Honest ones say yes. Honest ones say yes.
I have never met one.
Oh, really? I have.
I don't know that they can say yes, because their religion is based on faith. So even if they were provided evidence based on their religion, that would be like false prophets, right?
Satan.
It would be false prophets. So it would be God testing you with evidence that he did not exist, which isn't a thing, but God testing you, so you would have to be steadfast in your faith So I don't think that that's a thing.
Hold on. Let her finish her thought.
Yeah, go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think that that's something that they could really stand on. I don't think they could stand on a yes answer to that.
Yeah, I think you have a good point, but I think there's two ways of looking at it. There's the way of looking at it is saying, look at if they're being tested, right? That's fine for like the Abraham. Remember, he was tested with his son and stuff like that. And you can make that argument, which you just did. But there's that meta above that, the epistemic higher ground that says, if we knew on a meta level that God did not exist, then would the Christians change their position? So you got to.
What does that mean?
Well, epistemic.
Kyle's like, what the fuck are you talking about? God damn it,
I don't
Steve.
like these different levels. Like I don't like.
It's called a higher epistemic position.
9 different definitions of nothing. I don't like the fact that there is a whatever logical
Epistemology.
version of this, and a
but that's what these questions
nuanced
deal
version
with.
of this, and an equation version for this. Why can't you just say evidence? Not on a meta level. Who thinks in a meta level? Who says like we're going to Arby's?
Steve thinks on a meta level, and that's why none of us can talk to him.
On a regular level, I feel like Arby's, but on a meta level, I feel like Bojangles.
Look if I ask you, Kyle, if you knew God doesn't exist, would you do this? Or if I said you had absolute, and I hate to use absolute certainty because it's weird phrasing, but if I say if you had epistemic certainty, which is called Cartesian certainty, that means that there is absolutely no way you can be wrong.
What I mean, like.
Then that's a different.
Three words right there. 3 words that just lost me. Derailed.
But even so, how do you get?
Steve, you have to explain.
I don't think you can't get epistemic certainty. I think we have things that are forever beyond our ability to ever know.
But what do you mean by meta? Help me understand.
You don't know what meta means? Meta, like for example, ethics would be like what is good and what is bad. Meta ethics would be why is something good and why is something bad. Metaethics deals with a subject dealing with the reasons for something. Why do we exist? Is a metaethical question, or excuse me, a metaphysical question. It deals with our existence. Existence itself is metaphysics. Being.
Now, what does that have to do with the tying it into what we were just talking about? Like
if
they were being tested.
With being tested, if you knew for something for an epistemic certainty, then there is no question. You are 100% certain of this, which I don't believe anybody can do in the meta wise. And I know it's a hard way to determine. I could say I have certainty within a framework. I can say that I know 1 + 1 = 2. I have certainty of that. Okay, it's an analytical proposition, but there are certain things that we do not have epistemic certainty to, and we'll never know. Like for example, if I have a scientific theory, I can never say that the scientific theory actually is the way reality is, as opposed to as it represents what reality is. And I had this discussion with Arn just yesterday, matter of fact. I tried to explain to him the difference between scientific realism and scientific instrumentalism, and he doesn't agree with either of them. And I don't know what position he takes then. Except
could it be that it's us or that it's you?
Well, hang on. Let me finish it, because it was weird, because he said theories are not representations. And I totally disagree, because theories are models and models are representations. As a scientific instrumentalist, my position is that I only have to have a theory that represents reality that I can use to explain and to predict. That's as far as I need to go on it. Whether it actually is the way reality is, that's a metaethical question that I don't know.
But people don't think in terms like that, Steve. I don't think
philosophers do.
But what we're talking about is
scientists in a way, right?
What we're talking about is if they were presented evidence, right, that claimed to be irrefutable, and that God didn't exist. You have the hardcore believers, they would not separate that, on a meta level I believe this, but on a spiritual level I can't.
But they would cling on to that. If God could take whatever he knows and give it to you, so you have infinite knowledge like he does, so you know you're not
believe.
Hang on. You know at that point you're not being tested because you have the same knowledge he does. That would be a certainty that you can never have, because I don't think any infinite being can impart to you infinite amount of information, right? In fact, I don't even know the causal mechanism by which God imparts knowledge to half the people that claim they have knowledge.
They would still think they were being tested. That Satan was doing it.
I don't. Not if they're on equal footing of God. But then then the problem becomes.
My point is, how would they know?
Not God?
My point is, how would they know?
If they know everything God knows, and they have the same power as God has, there's something called the indistinguishability of certainties, which basically,
you don't know how hard they cling on to this, Steve. You don't know how hard they cling on to this.
I tell you what.
Look at what happened with Job. Look at what happened with Job in the Bible. Job was taken to the absolute limits of what a human should be able to endure.
Oh my God, what the hell am I trying to pronounce here? I gotta look this up. I haven't used it in a long time, but go ahead.
I'm just telling Frankie to take note at this timeline. This is the first time Steve has been speechless ever.
Well, I don't want to name the phrase here, and I don't want to.
I think he's looking something up.
I said I'm looking something. Yeah.
I'm just watching.
And you can't do that because you are a guest and you have to be the main participant.
There's a principle that
doing here, Steve.
Have the exact same properties. They're the same thing. There's a principle that if there's indistinguishability between the two, they're the same thing. and I forget the term, a phrase, indiscernibility of something or other, and I can't remember it. Maybe the live chat.
I can understand something or other. I can pronounce that too. Okay, let's go to number 8.
Yes.
Number 8.
Tell me something. If evolution is real, and if evolution is really happening, how come there are no transitional forms that we can observe?
Okay. Oh, by the way, it's called the identity of indiscernibility or indiscernibles. There you go. I looked it up.
That's what I was thinking. I didn't want to, I didn't want to make it seem like I was.
Kyle just didn't want to seem smarter than you.
I mean,
indiscernibility of identicals.
I have a role to play on this show, and I'm going to play it up. But really, when I get off of here, I have a very thick English accent. I wear a mahogany robe, walk around with a pipe.
That sounds fabulous.
You need a bigger goatee.
This is a character I play.
All right, so this lovely thing about transitional fossils.
KC, take us away with the transitionals.
Yeah, so this is a really simple answer. I don't even need a lot of time for this. There are transitional fossils. There's a lot of them. Again, we go back to this guy's basic like lack of understanding of science. Even the basics, man, it's really bad. Read a book. Go to the Natural History or go to the Natural History Museum in Washington D.C. Like go to any natural history museum, for fuck's sake. There are transitional fossils. There's no other thing to say to that other than yes, there are.
Yeah.
Go to Google.
That's it. He's wrong.
Go to Google. Go to fucking Google.
Google.
It's really not that hard.
It's not even wrong. It's just wronger than wrong.
Yeah, this is not that hard. There are transitional fossils. Read a different book, man.
I love that our answer to this our answers to this question was, especially following the conversation that we just had, where we were throwing around all of these different terms that Kyle can't pronounce and all that our answer to this question was, from one side, there are, and from the other side, it's wronger than wrong.
Yeah,
now, this is a conversation that I can follow.
The reason being is, look at you. I kind of think, I'm under the impression that any fossil is transitional because it relates different lines of species. So you can use it to compare two phylogenetic lines. So it's transitional. Every species is going through its transition. However, if we want to like put it into a more narrow scope, then a transitional fossil is something that says, okay, this is a time period where there was some kind of divergence of a notable thing, whether it could be comparative homologies or morphology or anatomy, whatever. You can say, okay, here's when, like the first insect, right, 400 million years ago. It starts with an R, and I can't remember. Rubidia something or other. I hate Latin.
Go to Google.
Yeah, Google it. What first insect?
Google.
It's like 400 million years ago. Starts with an R. I remember that much. But that fossil has the first characteristics we see of segmented body parts. So it has morphology of other things predecessor to it, but it had new things we hadn't seen before. It was a divergence. That was a transitional fossil because, look, it was the first insect we found. Right?
Well,
that doesn't mean there wasn't insects before that, but not all fossils are encapsulated in amber, and not all of them leave, things in rocks. So I think Casey's exactly right. There are hundreds of thousands of well-preserved transitional fossils. So whatever we mean and biologists mean and people mean by transitional,
nope.
It's not how he's using that word.
Nope.
Yeah.
According to him, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Casey.
Well, I think they just get confused because they don't really understand what transitional fossils are. And I think Steve gave a really good explanation as of what they're talking about. It's the first instance that we see a divergence, and it doesn't have to be like a massive divergence. It doesn't have to be one animal into another. Like you don't go from dinosaurs to birds. That's not how shit works. Like there are tons of transitional fossils in between that. And just because they don't understand it doesn't mean that it's not there.
Exactly.
Well, listen, there is no scientific proof for us transitioning in relation to evolution. Also, how is it possible that the same species transitions at the same time?
This is like the question, well, how come apes don't, modern apes, how come they don't evolve to humans? You just like, oh, you're so cute and stupid.
You know what?
This one's bad. This one's really bad.
Really bad.
This deserves this answer, and then we're going to move on to number 9 because this is just ridiculous. Go to Google. Number 9.
I'm okay with that because it's just, better yet, go to Google Scholar and type in macroevolution. And
Number 9.
Read to your heart content.
Do you live according to what you believe, or do you live your life according to what you lack in belief?
I love the way he's like, lack.
I know. He's so disgusted by it. I don't even know how one might live their life according to lack of belief. I don't know what that would look like. So again, bad question. I just think this is a bad question. I think everybody lives according to their beliefs. Now, just because I don't believe in a God, I don't live my life based on the fact that I don't believe in a God. I just don't believe in a God. I live my life based on all kinds of other things. So I just think this is a terrible question. Like, kind of like the rest of them, but yeah.
Big surprise, right?
To be fair, we do kind of live our life based on our lack of.
Not so much. I'm actually gonna go with Casey on this one, and the reason being is that look, I think she's right. I think we do live our lives according to our beliefs. If I say I don't have a belief in leprechauns, and I also at the same time I believe leprechauns don't exist, one does entail the other. If I say I believe X, it entails also I do not believe X is true. Okay, you can't have I believe something without not believing in it. So I believe that leprechauns don't exist, but I also at the same time I don't believe in leprechauns. But I don't live my life based upon that. I don't go through every day, wake up going, hey, you know what? I don't believe in leprechauns, so what am I going to do to get through the day today? Right?
Yeah, I get Kyle's point, though. And here, let me explain, Kyle. So, we do a lot of things in our life based on the fact that we're atheists. But what we do isn't because we lack a belief in a God. So what I do, I mean, I can't really speak for why you do what you do, but why I do what I do with atheist activism for the money. Yeah, it doesn't pay enough. For what I do in regards to atheist activism isn't because I don't believe in a God. It's because of the impacts of religion that I see on society. I believe that religion is harmful. I believe that it hurts people and it hurts society, and it's just bad for it. I think it's a cancer on society, and I believe that. So I do what I do because I believe it's bad, and that separation of church and state is important. And so those are beliefs that I hold. And so although I lack a belief in God, I don't do the things that I do because I don't believe in God. Does that kind of make sense?
I think that's
yes,
well stated.
But I just want to point out that it has not gone unnoticed that this plot twist now has you and Steve teaming up on me.
Damn right.
This is
the whole thing converts you to agnosticism.
The outcome of science fiction. No, I was being sarcastic. I was meaning
real quick,
that we, like us here on YouTube, do base a lot of our lives on the lack of our belief in God, because we're doing this, like the activism thing. Now, I think you worded it better by saying that it's because you believe in the activism part and the separation of church and state. I think that's a better way of putting it. But mainly, I was just being a sarcastic bitch.
But you know what's funny is I think she hits nail on the head for the fact that we have beliefs. She believes religion is harmful, right? Whether we believe that or not, it doesn't matter. She has that belief. She's going to do something in response to that belief. It's not because she lacks a belief in God. It's because as a response to people pushing religion into the secular society, people pushing creationism, that I can get behind, right? I have a response to people pushing young earth creationism in the schools. I believe that's wrong. I have an active belief that's wrong. I will act upon that because of my belief, right? That I think is a better way to word it. So I think this is a really piss poor way of wording your question.
It is.
Big surprise, I know, but
well, he says that again, atheists preach atheism. Christians preach Christianity. Evolutionists preach evolution. We all preach what we believe. We all live according to what we believe. Our beliefs, even without proof, shape our views and our lives. Even atheists or evolutionists believe things without evidence, such as the universe being created from nothing. So
See,
what he managed to do was take every horrible argument that he had in every single question and combine it into one.
He did.
If he would have just stopped at certain points, it wouldn't have been that bad. If he would have said even atheists are evolution and believe things without evidence, I would have gotten behind that. And I wouldn't even had a problem with that. I am a non-evidentialist, right? So I think you can be justified to hold a belief via prudentialism or pragmatism and not have evidence for it. I think that's fine. I don't have no problem with that. That's not faith-based. There's actually justificatory conditions to hold a belief. But he didn't stop there, right? He's added on the caveat such as the universe being created for nothing, which we've already explained.
He's got no chill, Steve. He's got no chill.
You know?
Yeah.
And no, and again, this is weird too. He says our beliefs are even without proof shape our views and lives. You don't prove beliefs. If you had a proof, it wouldn't no longer be, well, it wouldn't be a belief. It would be, well, hang on. It would be a belief. It'd be knowledge, and obviously knowledge entails belief. Well, but the way he's wording it is weird because who proves certain things? And even in science, you don't prove anything, right? I have no proof that the universe exists. I assume it axiomatically, but you don't. Have you ever seen a formal proof that the universe exists?
Wait a minute. You do have proof that the universe exists.
No, I don't. No. Science doesn't prove anything. Science explains.
Now we're just being ridiculous.
God.
No, I mean,
Question number 10.
Frankie, will you cut his camera off? I cannot allow him to make himself look. He doesn't know what he's doing. Cut his camera off. Hurry.
There's no scientific proof that the universe is real. You're never going to find a scientist that says we've proven the existence is real. That's just doesn't make any sense to do so. Science doesn't deal in proofs.
What I took away from this, Steve, is that Inspiring Walk, Steve said that if you change your answers, he will get behind you. He will get behind you.
You word him a lot better, don't you?
Yeah, his questions are worded terribly. I do feel like he should have spent a little more time developing his questions, but that would require a lot of understanding of things that he lacks
that's the problem.
completely.
I don't think he understands the science or the philosophy. And that's
basically, Inspiring Walk, take everything that you're stating right now and do the opposite of that, and you will be just fine.
Yeah, the worst thing is when he says we all preach what we believe. That's
number 10.
So fundamentally wrong.
Yeah, I don't even know what atheists would preach. Oh, sorry.
I don't.
My bad.
I don't either. I don't understand what would an atheist preach. An atheist,
I don't know. No
matter how you want to say it. Look, all atheists don't believe in God. That's ubiquitous. So why do you want to sit there? How is that preaching to say I don't believe in God? That's not preaching. That's stating, what you think. It's not really technically a position. But
there's really nothing. But there's really nothing else to add to it. No. Like when Christians, when pastors get up and preach Christianity, they got a shit ton of stuff to preach about, right? But like atheists don't believe in God. What the fuck are we going to preach about?
I mean,
I just don't even know.
For the God that doesn't exist so loved the world that he gave his non-existent son, that whosoever believeth in him that does not exist should not perish, because you can't, because he doesn't exist, but have everlasting life. You could do it. You could preach.
Well, but even in that case,
nobody does that.
Even if you were a positive atheist that's advocating gods don't exist, which again I think is a better position to take if you're going to want to put forth an atheist thing. I personally believe that's my own opinion. But look, even then, how is that preaching? You're not preaching a sermon. You're not preaching religion. It doesn't qualify by any recognizable definition that I know. To say I believe gods don't exist is not preaching.
Yeah, I don't know how that would happen.
Except maybe in the most basal colloquial form, and I don't like.
I almost didn't do this one. I almost let him slide on this one because I don't feel it would be fair to actually go through with question number 10. But because, we're going to because I put 10 on there, but it's just not fair to him. The answers I know are going to be really,
know the answers to this question.
Because this is just the worst question ever. But I've got to do it because I said 10 on the promo. So
let's do it.
Sorry, Inspiring Walk.
All right, load your groins and clench your anuses. Here we go.
God doesn't exist, and the Christian dies. The Christian loses nothing. But if God does exist, and you die as an atheist, do you not lose more? Will you not lose your soul?
Boo!
Right?
Right out of the gate, you have the fallacy.
I mean, everybody knows that this is a classic Pascal's wager. It's terrible. This is a terrible argument. It's always been a terrible argument. There's no evidence of souls existing. However, I mean, it's a religious concept. It's not based in any kind of science. But even if you give him that souls exist, you'd still have to live your life being controlled by a religion and dangerous religious thought at the chance that there is a God that you might piss off. So I don't know. This argument is just silly. It's just silly. I don't know what else to say about that.
Yeah, if I said, hey, KC, if you don't live in accordance to the Muslim Sharia law, you're going to hell. So why not do it? Because if you don't lose anything if you're wrong, kind of thing, right?
Well, yeah, but here's the thing.
Difference. He has this weird belief that Christianity, if you don't abide by that, you're screwed. But what about all the other positions who say the same thing?
Right. So what if he's wrong? Like, I don't have to be right. It's not their position or my position. Well, that's the thing. Not necessarily. It's not a his position or my position. There are thousands of other positions. Mm-hmm. Like, what if the Hindus are right and you're wrong? Then you lose and I lose. Right? It's not you win or I win. That's not how this works. So you're laying all of your eggs in this one basket, assuming that Christianity is right and there are no other possibilities.
I mean, he'd be better off arguing that it's best to believe all religions are true.
Saving you a spot here in toasty hell, and you can hardboil those eggs. It's going to be warm down here.
It's still not a great argument, but I would rather have somebody argue, hey, you know what? It's better to believe that all religions are true, even though they're mutually exclusive of each other. But if you believe in all religions, then you're covered.
And you can't do that based on the teachings of the religions. Exactly. You just can't do that. So I mean, if we're looking at it statistically speaking, I have better odds of being right than you do.
I think they did a Bayesian analysis on this, and I think that I think Christianity came out like a 25% chance, if according to Pascal's wager, right? Well, even I have to research that, but if I remember correctly, that you actually have a higher percentage of being right by not being Christian. But
even if atheists such as Richard Dawkins are on record as admitting that he can't be 100% sure that God doesn't exist, if there's a possibility that God exists, would you not want to know there are eternal consequences to being wrong about
I'm too sober
God?
For this.
Actually, there are consequences when you put up videos claiming that atheists cannot answer any of your questions when they totally decimate all the sin of.
There's a huge difference between possible and plausible. Those are not synonymous terms, right? And when he says, like, even atheists such as Richard Dawkins are on record as admitting that he can't be 100% sure God exists. First of all, again, why is Richard Dawkins the go-to person for this? I'm not a huge fan of Richard Dawkins' atheist things. I don't think he's really good at philosophy. But
as a biologist, he's talking crazy.
But why? I don't know many. There's very few people that I think would claim 100% certainty that gods do not exist. Are they out there? Sure. Do they think they have a very high standard, a burden of justification to say that? Yes. But I don't think that's the average person. I mean, Casey, you would probably know a lot of atheists. How many of them go around saying, I have 100% certainty that gods do not exist?
There actually aren't that many. We even asked that question on, not that specific question, but we asked a similar question on our Facebook page, and we have lots of followers, way more followers on our Facebook page than we do on YouTube. And for the most part, I mean, we had a few that said they were 100% certain that God didn't exist. The ones that I saw the most where they were 100% certain was that they were 100% certain that the Abrahamic God did not exist. Not just that, but because the Abrahamic God, the way that they talk about him, we would know. We would know if he existed. So just the way that they describe him, it's fairly evident that particular God doesn't exist. But we still but for the most part, it was, we don't know for sure. Most people, and I know Steve hates this term. We don't have to fight about this. In fact, I'm not going to fight about this. But most people.
We totally do.
We're not going to fight about this because I don't have this fight. Most people in that question thread determined their own self to be agnostic atheist. Yeah. So
Which, by the way, I just asked. Can I bring that up, Kyle?
No,
because obviously it's funny. We actually kind of might more agree than she thinks.
Is it going to cause drama?
No.
Is it going to cause drama?
Well,
Kyle wants drama.
Kyle wants drama.
Yeah. If it's going to be kumbaya, then no, we're moving on.
Yeah, it'd be kumbaya.
Hey, I've got sparkly fingernails on, so everybody's fucked.
It's funny because I just asked this question. I asked this question specifically to Matt the other day, Matt Delahunty, because I wanted to have clarification to make sure that he was on the same page. And look, I maintain that it's perfectly fine to use the term agnostic atheism as I understand people use it. I'm not a fan of it. I don't use it myself, right? But I understand how they mean it. But Matt and I both agree it only makes sense if you're using it in the term of hard atheism, is you're using it in philosophical atheism, that I believe God does not exist position. The reason for that is that we both agree that if you have just a position that you do not have a God belief, you don't have a doxastic position. You're not saying I believe something. So therefore, how do you modify it with a knowledge thing? So it's nonsensical to say agnostic atheist if you're a soft atheist, but people do it. But I believe very strongly that it just makes really no sense to do it that way. But I do understand when people use it. Does that make sense? I'm not saying
it makes.
It's just to me it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and like I said, I'm not gonna. I don't really. Getting into that discussion is just super complicated, just because I think we come at it from different angles. And that's fine. But my point was just most people on that thread. Yeah. I was trying to answer the question. Most people on that thread identify as agnostic,
meaning they don't have certainty.
They don't.
That's how they're using
they don't believe in a God, so that's their atheist part, and they're agnostic about it, meaning they don't know for 100% certain. So, right. And that's how they're using that.
So his question is that even atheists admit they can't be 100% certain. That's pretty ubiquitous. Again, I think what you just said agrees. Most atheists, even if they label themselves agnostic atheists, are saying they don't have 100% certainty. So where's his problem?
We don't believe in his God. That's his problem. That's his fucking problem. That's his whole problem. I don't see why he's making
an argument about that. I mean, he seems to think that atheists going around saying, I have 100% certainty there are no gods. And yet those are very far and few between.
Inspiring Walk. Saturday, I will be releasing a video on this channel with 10 questions that Christians cannot answer.
Ooh.
Yay!
And
that's going to be fun.
Would be honored if you would do the same. Do a video and roast me, make fun of how stupid they were, but see if you can answer them. I think that the questions that I've come up with are pretty fair, and you might surprise me. You might be able to whip through them as easily as we whip through yours. Who knows? But give it a shot. Okay, we're where are we at right now? Oh, good. We've still got about
I don't know, but I
left.
think one of your questions should be, this is just my personal opinion and input, and you can take it or leave it. That's fine.
Go ahead.
I would ask him, if you've never been to the ends of the earth, you've never been to every planet, and you've never been to every part of the universe, how do you know that other gods don't exist?
It's like,
yeah, and that's weird for him to do that, to look at. Let me throw this out there. Like, for example, Kyle, you believe 1 + 1 = 2, do you not?
I'm not certain.
I don't know. I don't know you, man.
I don't believe that. I accept that to be true.
Exactly.
See, I'm
not sure.
I would say that in order to
there might be a meta universe where 1 + 1 = 8.
No, there can't be. Let me explain why.
You're a mess.
This is as bad as his argument. I believe 1 + 1 = 2. I know 1 + 1 = 2, and to say that I know it, I have to believe.
We're dealing facts here, Steve, not what you believe.
But the reason why I know, and I also believe 1 + 1 = 2 everywhere, I don't have to go to another galaxy to verify that 1 + 1 = 2, because it's an analytical proposition. It's true by axiomatic definitions. So therefore, it is true here, there, meta, anywhere. It is a fact that exists ubiquitously. I don't have to go travel to other planets. God's existence, you don't have to go travel to other planets to say, oh, look under this rock, does God exist? That's silly.
What does this have to do with my 10-question challenge?
You have to go travel to every part of the universe to say that God doesn't exist. We're not looking for alien life. right? I
Right.
mean, you might have an argument to say, hey, you can't say
Where are we
aliens don't
going?
exist till you at least take
But
a
I
huge
mean-
sample of the universe. But
we
that's
are
not
looking
what
for the
he's saying.
supernatural, right?
Yeah.
We are looking for the supernatural. So he's saying even though we may not have evidence on Earth, like maybe there's evidence somewhere else.
Why
I
would
think
he
that's what
think
he's saying.
that? But why would he think that? That's silly.
Because
He's
why
especially
wouldn't
from a
he?
Christian, right?
Because he's
He
a
believes
silly
in it.
person,
That's right.
Yeah, he
Steve.
believes in a sky daddy.
He's
You know?
a silly person, Steve. I'm sure he's a nice person. Like I think it's really awesome that he followed up and answered and provided additional information on all of those
Absolutely.
questions. I think that's fantastic, and I'm really happy that he did that because it was nice to have his
he's gonna watch
perspective,
it.
even though he wasn't going to be here.
He will watch.
But he's a silly person.
But bless his heart.
Bless his little.
Bless
we
his
can say.
heart. Bless his heart.
Now,
I'm sure
before we
he's
run out of time, I think
Okay.
this is I want to get to probably my actually, if we're going to share sentimental moments, this is the first thing that I ever liked of Casey's because
Aw.
I think she kicked it out of the park. So I wanted to kind of have her do an abridged version of a podcast that she did on a particular story because I think it was not only brilliant, but it was perfectly executed. And even though you're going to hear it now, don't cheat yourself. At the end of this, go and listen to the entire thing for yourself because you'll be glad you did when it's over.
See, we needed a music right here to be an intro into Storytime with KC. We did not plan ahead. This would
Sing
have
it,
been a
Casey.
perfect segue.
She sings her own intro. Ready?
Well, so I have my script. So do you want me to just read through my script, or what? What do you want me to do?
Girl,
Are we
you do
gonna
whatever
talk
you
about it?
feel. We're not going to inhibit
Sing
your
the intro.
creativity. You do whatever you feel.
Well, so okay, so we'll start with the intro here. Well, I'll give you a little intro. This was a response I did to a Fox News article that came out that was about atheist bullies. Okay, and it starts out and it says, "Atheists today are the most arrogant, ignorant, and dangerous people on earth." That's the very first line of the article. Well,
Subtle.
so go ahead.
I was just going to say subtle.
Yeah, yeah, right. He wasn't trying to hit people with a hammer, but he did.
Not at all.
So I think it's pretty inflammatory, right? I think everybody would agree. But it's wrong. And the writer's arguments through the entire article they're fallacious and they're just bad. And they actually, if you break them down, they far more accurately describe religion. So that's kind of what I did in this video is I broke down his articles or his arguments and explained how they actually describe religion and not atheism. So the first thing I did was define the words that he used in the first line. So arrogant, ignorant, and dangerous. So arrogant is having an exaggerated sense of one's own importance. Okay, so there are over 4,200 religions in the world. So whatever religion that you are or aren't is generally a factor of your culture, geography, era, and upbringing. If you were born in Syria in the 1980s, you're probably Muslim. If you were born in Syria in the 7th century, you were probably a Christian, right? So those things matter. If you live in the U.S. South, you're likely some form of conservative evangelical Christian. If you're born in China, there are 5 national religions, like there are 5 recognized religions, but most people in China are non-religious. So there are all kinds of religions and they all think they're right. And frankly, I think that's pretty arrogant. Wouldn't you think?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So let me see. I kind of lost my place here.
I think it's the complete opposite of what they claim atheists are, because I think atheists are taking the position that we don't know or that we can't say for certain. So I don't think that's arrogant at all. I think that shows a little bit of, awareness of the situation.
And let me add, this is a theist trap that I see theists doing. Theists are putting forth this narrative that if you don't have certainty, God doesn't exist. You can't then say you believe God doesn't exist. That's complete bullshit. You do not have to know or have certainty God does not exist to say you believe God does not exist or say you don't believe in God. They want to have this narrative where, well, if you don't know for certain, you can't say it. That's wrong. Absolutely, unequivocally wrong. Don't fall for that. You don't have to have any kind of certainty to have a belief. A belief can be wrong, right?
Yeah.
To be rational, if you have a belief and you find out it's wrong, then you change your belief. Your belief changes, right? That's rationality. But knowledge can never be wrong. There's no such thing as false knowledge. It's only true knowledge. That's it. And so to claim knowledge, now you have a different position, because now you're saying, I can't be wrong. And that's a very strong claim, as opposed to I disbelieve, where I can be wrong. I don't have certainty. So what? You need to tell the theist, yeah, you're right. I don't have certainty God doesn't exist, but so what? I'm not claiming I have certainty. I'm claiming I believe God does not exist, or I don't believe God exists, depending on how you want to go. But as for somebody who wants to put a positive claim, yeah, I believe God doesn't exist. I don't claim it as absolutely true. I don't claim it as knowledge. What's your point? It just shuts down the theist right off the bat, I think.
Well, right. And that's the thing, is they do claim absolute knowledge. They do claim that their way is the only way to their afterlife, their heaven, or whatever it is for whatever particular religion you're talking about. They discriminate against each other. They discriminate against us. They try to pass laws in their governments. I mean, you have theocracies all over the world that ensure that their particular religion is favored over another religion. They try to use force in some places to make people believe what they believe. And that's arrogance. Like, I don't know how else to explain that to them. So that's arrogance.
Right. You're right. Yeah. But what they're trying to do is, because you're exactly right, the fact that they have that, some of them claim that certainty. They want to put that burden onto the atheist and say, well, wait, we have certainty God exists, and let me show you why, and whatever the reasons. But they say you don't have certainty, therefore you can't make that claim. And it's just doublespeak. It really is.
Yeah. Yeah. So the next term that we hit on is ignorant. Okay. So atheists are ignorant. Ignorant is, huh?
I just laughed.
Oh, so ignorance is lacking knowledge or awareness in general or about something in particular. So given that a lot of religious people rely heavily on their religious scripture for knowledge, to the point where they dismiss other information and ideas and evidence, facts, from outside of the religious teaching, I don't really think that an argument from ignorance is really how Christians want to go about this thing here. So I talk about how there are well-educated religious people. So not all religious people are stupid. Ignorance is different than stupidity. There are ignorant atheist people. Sure. Atheism doesn't necessarily mean that you're smarter than everybody else. There's some really stupid atheist people out there. We've seen some of them.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, so the difference is that religious people are guided by a preset way of thinking and specific rules and guidelines for what they're supposed to believe and how they're supposed to act. They think this way based on ancient texts and avoid evidence that might bring their preconceived notions and opinions into question. That's ignorance. That's willful ignorance. You are willfully being ignorant of the world around you when you dismiss everything else instead of when you do that because of your religion.
Preach, girl.
It makes me mad. Like, I get triggered, man. I get triggered.
This is why I wanted you to tell this story, because you can tell every time, even now when you're telling it, and this is probably I don't know how many times that you've done it, but you still get, passionate about it.
I just dropped my bottle. But yeah.
Are you drinking?
Well, no, I had some,
because I don't know why I didn't drink some beer for this. I knew these questions are going to be triggering.
No, I was drinking Sunkist. I actually don't drink alcohol at all. So.
Good for you. I don't know how you function in life then, because I'm dealing with some of this stuff. I'm thinking, geez, man,
it would probably make it easier, but alcohol makes me extremely ill. Even like just a couple of sips of anything, I get.
I know what I'm getting you for your birthday.
Scotch.
Yeah, I can't drink at all.
Let's drink all of this and then go on live stream.
I tell you what, because we're nice guys, we will drink for you.
Oh, thank you. I really do appreciate that.
I don't drink either, Steve.
Yeah. So one of the things that is an example of supreme ignorance and just acceptance of that ignorance is I have seen people in a church lay their hands on graduating high schoolers that are going to college and basically pray for them to not accept any knowledge that leads them away from God. That is
blows my mind.
Ignorance. I don't. Anyway, we can move on to dangerous if you want to. So dangerous, likely to cause harm or injury or cause problems or have adverse consequences. Okay. So we kind of actually already hit on a little bit of this when our questions. Atheists just don't believe in God. Aside from this non-belief, we don't have a dogma or a doctrine, no self-guiding principles that we all shared that motivate our actions, our decisions, and basically the way that we behave, right? Religious scriptures, you can pick whatever one you want. They often advocate for violence against people who don't believe the same as they do. And they do that to try to get people to believe what they believe. So, you grow your religion. They call for their followers to eradicate heretics, non-believers, people of other faith. And to me, that sounds far more dangerous than just not believing in God.
Absolutely. Where's this article from again?
Fox News. I can send you the link.
Well, that explains where the tone is coming from. Absolutely.
Yeah.
The fact that this person was able to not only write this but get it sent out and to the editor and published as a credible piece is absolutely astonishing, because the irony and the hypocrisy here is just, it's fucking rampant, and it's almost laughable.
Well, and what's funny is I haven't even finished breaking down the first sentence. Like, this is the first sentence of this article.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And so I give some examples because I think that that's important. I did not cite sources because I think these are well known enough, and you can tell me if you think that I'm wrong, but I have been I've been criticized a little bit for not posting sources to go with this. But you tell me what you think. If you think so, I can always add sources to the description of that video. So some of the examples here. An easy target would be radical Islam and terrorism, right? We don't have to spend a whole lot of time on that to know the impacts of Islamic extremists all over the world.
Agreed.
So we've also talked about Ashura, and I've talked about it in a video. John has talked about it before in some of his videos. But do you guys know what Ashura is?
It sounds like a sweetener.
Off the top of my head.
It's an Islamic practice. It's a celebration thing where the men basically cut open their heads. They smash their head with a blade of some sort, a sword or a machete or some kind of thing like that, and slice open their heads. It's a blood ritual, and they do it to children. Okay.
I hate people.
I have seen YouTube videos on that, actually. Yeah. That's barbaric.
It's awful. Okay, it's awful. What causes these people to do that? Religion?
Insanity.
Or atheism? Religion. But it's the religion that teaches them that they should be doing this.
Same thing.
Yeah, so right. But that's dangerous. Not believing in God is not dangerous. But I realize that's an extreme. So we can move to another kind of sort of extreme, right, as cults. And me personally, I really don't think the only difference between a cult and a religion is that a religion is more widely accepted. To me, that's the only difference. And some people will argue that. That's fine. But so in cults, they're religious groups that tear families apart and brainwash members, groups that have practiced dangerous and illegal sex practices with children, groups that participate in human and animal sacrifices, groups that convince everyone in the group to commit mass suicide, right? And we could spend a lot of time talking about the dangers of cults, but we can also come way closer to what most people are used to and talk about Christianity. and why Christianity is dangerous.
I thought you just were.
What?
I thought those examples you just gave were Christianity.
No, Islam and cults.
I was being
Some of it applies. But one thing that with what Godless Engineer and I do, we hear a lot of stories from Christians and former Christians about how much emotional damage they've suffered on behalf of their religion. So, you know, you can have even extreme examples in Christianity, like shaming and picketing and protesting at women's clinics, you know, so you can start with that. That's kind of an extreme a little bit. Even most Christians, while they may not accept abortion as an appropriate thing to do, they still wouldn't go picket at a women's clinic. Or you could talk about anti-gay hatred on behalf of Westboro Baptist Church, right? They're kind of an extreme, but we don't even have to do that because indoctrination is emotionally damaging. Severely emotionally damaging. There are people that reflect back on their childhood and have talked to me personally about not being able to go to sleep at night because they were afraid that God would kill them in their sleep because they sinned during the day. That's dreadful. Yeah. That's a dreadful way to live your life. I mean, we know about how gay and trans teens are forced to hide who they are. I mean, typically, at least from what I've seen, is that gay and trans people have a little more freedom once they get out of the house and, you know, into college or into their life. They've got a little more freedom to be open about who they are. But a lot of times when they're growing up, especially in Christian households and especially in conservative, like evangelical kind of households, they have to hide who they are because their families will either shame them or, you know, kick them out. I mean, how many gay people do you know got kicked out of their houses because they were gay?
I was getting ready to say, I wish we had somebody on this panel that could speak to that was, in fact, gay. But
yeah, and worse, how many people?
I'm just kidding. I am gay.
But how many atheist family would kick out their children if they decided to become Christians? I don't see that.
Well, let me answer her question first about the gay thing, because what you don't realize is that ultimately, I think it's safe to say that most gay people are atheists or agnostic. Now you have some that are, you know, still religious and still go to church, and there are churches that are accepting, you know, even more so now to gay people. But gay people have to come out of the closet twice. That I don't think most people realize. You come out of the closet either first as an atheist or first as gay. I mean, they're both. Especially for me in a southern state, I have 3 pastors in my family, very religious household. So not only are you coming out as an atheist, but you also have to come out, you know, as gay. So you're an abomination on one hand to their God, and then you deny that God. So it's like a double whammy. And I've had several friends that. I had 2 that I know of off the top of my head that were thrown out, and one reconciled with their family. The other one didn't, and still to this day has nothing to do with them. I was kind of an anomaly. My family didn't make it a big deal. You know, it's not anything that they agree with, but they don't like dog me about it, and they don't make it awkward like at, you know, holidays and stuff like that. And I know that's a rare case, but I was lucky in that sense. But I've seen it definitely tear families apart for sure.
Yeah, and if you look at the root cause of why they care who you fuck, it's religion, right? I mean, that's the core cause of it. So. Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, it's dangerous. Religion is dangerous. And I don't see how atheism is dangerous in anywhere near the same capacity as religion is.
It's dangerous to their religion.
It's dangerous to their thought. Right. It is. And you know, that's fine. I'm okay with that, to be super honest.
Sure. So, it should be.
Yeah. So all of these examples of, you know, arrogance, ignorance, and danger while we just don't believe in God. So there's the first sentence broken down, right? Do you want me to keep going?
What are we streaming at, Steve? What time?
2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah.
I tell you what, so that we can kind of get a kind of cool down with you to kind of wrap up tonight. That was just the first. I think this is perfect, actually. That was just the first sentence of her podcast on this issue. Now, there's an entire article behind that, and she is spot on and just brilliant with the way that she breaks it down. So I think that it's a perfect cliffhanger for them to stop on the end of this sentence and then actually go when we get done here and listen to it, because the rest of it is just brilliant. And I knew from the day that I listened to her do that podcast that I was going to follow her to the ends of the earth. And now she's here.
Oh,
Casey.
And she was able to answer all 10 questions.
Yeah.
Surprise,
Yeah.
surprise, you know.
And you two got
Surprise,
along.
no one.
Which is amazing. I was worried going in here. I was like, oh man, something's going to happen.
She's gonna get
I'm gonna-
stumped.
I wasn't
Yeah.
worried.
Well, I mean, the I'll say this out here too, because when I set this up, and I'm not dressing up old history or whatever, but it was just funny to me because when I set this up, I text Steve and then I text Casey and I said, okay, this is the date that we're going to have Casey on, whatever. And it's almost instantaneous that they both send me a message back saying, does the other one know that I'm coming on?
But Kyle, did I ever at all say I had a problem? I'm like, okay, cool, sounds great.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
I said,
fine.
fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't
never
have
took
a problem
umbrage.
either. I didn't have a problem either. I was just like, does Steve know?
I was just
If Steve knows and he's cool, I'm cool.
I wish you could have saw my face.
I know,
because I was standing
Kyle
with
just
my
likes-
phone like, I don't know what to do right now. I'm gonna have to tell Steve that I'm sick this night, and me and Casey are gonna have to like stream to a private hangout to get this thing. But no, it was fantastic. I think this was one of my favorite streams. I think
fun. This was really fun.
doing stuff like this.
I like these types of streams.
It's fun. We're gonna do something different in not next week or the next because we're pretty busy, and I'm gonna go through the schedule real quick and then we're gonna wrap it up. But we're gonna have a mean tweet night where we're gonna invite some creators
much
across
fun.
the YouTube sphere to come on and read their mean comments, and we're just gonna have
And we're gonna read ours too because we have some awesome.
we're gonna have some fun with some trolls. So
You're gonna invite GE for that, right?
oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
hate comments is
he's
kind
got
of what he
epic
does.
his are the best. Look, when
His
we
are the
did
best.
our first stream with
I know,
Godless
I'm
Cranium
jealous.
and Godless Engineer, at the last minute, I said, now this was literally 5 minutes before we went on air because it just popped in my head. I was like, okay, I need something to fill this particular time in between videos. So I'm going to text Godless Engineer and see if he has some mean comments that he can come on and read. And
Yeah.
it was like 2 seconds after I sent him that message. Now, granted, this is 5 minutes before we go on air. He sends me a zip file with almost like a catalog of mean comments. Like, I mean, it was like neatly prepared and in a zip file. That's how many there were.
Well,
But,
to be fair, it's not because he dwells on them. It's because he does the hate comments episodes, so he has to save them. So.
But we're a little,
Absolutely.
I'm a little envious because look, we have some great mean tweets. Don't get me wrong. You guys do a great job insulting us. I love that. But I mean, I think more people put more time and effort sending comments to John and to Godless Cranium. And I'm a little bit envious of that, you know, because there's some pretty whacked up shit.
I got
you
called
guys get.
a discount garden gnome the other day.
Oh, but
Aw.
garden gnomes are cute. At least you're not the discount Terminator, right?
I know, but I mean, I
got the fat old guy with gray hair.
for some reason that bothered me all day.
That's not
I
very
just kept
creative,
looking in the
people,
mirror
come on.
going, you are not a garden gnome.
Yeah,
you
but yours
are
is more
not
creative than
a garden
mine.
gnome.
How much effort did it take to call me a fat old guy with gray hair? Come on, put some creativity into
Well,
it.
I mean,
yeah,
that's
I know.
accurate,
John
but I
hates
mean,
those too.
Jeez.
John hates those too. He's like, oh, okay, you called me fat. That's awesome.
And
Think of
I
something better.
wear a
Try
size
harder.
38 at max. That's not fat. Sorry, people.
Yeah.
Okay,
try
look,
harder.
we're gonna get Steve triggered, so we're gonna move on. Okay.
Hmm.
Let me go through the list real quick. 1 second, let me pull it up. Okay. So tomorrow we have Casey's other half. I almost said
Mhm.
better half. I was saying better
Everybody
half
knows that's not true.
in reference to him.
He knows it's not true.
We have Godless Engineer coming on to debate Christian Anarchist tomorrow at 8. They will be debating the premise: Jesus, man, myth, or God? Did he exist? We're going to be focusing in on that H word that they associate with Jesus that I can't say, so I'm not even going to attempt to.
Historicity.
Hysterectomy is what I said the first time.
The Jesus hysterectomy.
Friday we have Dr. R.M. Huffman and Dr.
Wait, hold on. I have to stop you for a second. John said he'll be giving somebody a hysterectomy tomorrow.
Oh, the gauntlet has been laid out.
Yeah, he's saying he's saying Christian anarchist is rather feminist.
I need to talk to him too, because we're gonna have him make his intro like he did that night we had Red Pill Religion on. I want it to be like he's not there, and then all of a sudden he's just there. Like, yeah, bring it.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to the Psy and the RM discussion. Yeah.
Two doctors who are both Christians. One's an MD, one's a PhD. Both brilliant in their field, but they're both Christians. One believes in evolution, the other believes in creationism. So that's going to be a really good debate. That's Friday at 8:00. Sunday, we've had a lot of requests for Dr. Joshua Bowen to return. He is the ancient text, primarily Sumerian scholar. He will be back, and this time we're going to go and dive into the actual stories that predate the Bible, but the Bible takes ownership of. So like the flood, those kind of things. We're going to give you the original, or the earlier versions of those stories and how it got kind of moved over into the Christianity checkpoint. Monday is a religious holiday for the Church of Satan. I cannot say the name of this holiday.
I'm not going to bother either. I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce.
And it's bad if Steve can't say it. But
it's from a saint, and a German saint, and I know of it. I just don't know how to pronounce it without butchering it.
Yeah, that day we're gonna and you can start now tweeting us your questions, but we're gonna have Ask a Satanist Day. We have a pastor from the Church of Satan coming. He was actually on Godless Cranium's channel. If you saw a couple about a month ago,
Aaron.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but he will be coming on to do a live stream where it's all about you guys and your questions. So bring those. That Tuesday, I only have two more, guys, so bear with me. Tuesday is Weed the People. We are going to have a debate between somebody who believes that pot should be legal for recreation, and that person is actually in this room. Frankie and Bran from the Geek Room will be taking the position that, of course, we should be legal. He has his
big surprise
papers ready. And then SJ and Heather. Now, they have an interesting pair there, because one feels that medical marijuana is okay, but that recreational is not. The other one is against medical and recreational marijuana. So this is going to be a fantastic...
Who's against medical and recreational?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Bring your bowls. I'm going to be smoking up like crazy.
Wait,
I have my bag of Funyuns ready.
But who's against it? I don't even know who the person is. Who's against it?
Heather.
Who's Heather?
It's one of I don't have her last name on me right now. I
knew something was going on about that, but I didn't know the person. I didn't do any due diligence on it. I guess I need to.
Yeah, I don't want to try to remember her last name, because I know that I'll get it wrong. But it's Heather. Heather and SJ will be here against Frankie.
I'm curious about that one. And you know what? If I had a joint, I'd probably smoke it during it. And even though I don't like pot, but I'll
smoke one for you.
Would you? And
please? Then the main thing that we've had requests from, and I think this stems from our conversations with the ancient text scholars, which is interesting. But we've had several people reach out to us about getting a scholar that specializes in Egyptology and like the Sphinx and the pyramids and what they were used for and the evidence for that. And we have finally found, thanks to Dr. Bowen, somebody that is an Egyptologist, brilliant. Her name is, once again, I don't have her, Maggie Byerly, I want to say. Forgive me if that's wrong, but Maggie Byerly, I believe. It's on our webpage, nonsexshow.com/schedule. But she will be joining us to kind of dive into the proof or no proof for what the pyramids were used for. Were they a tomb? Were they something else? Was the Sphinx originally a lion like they claim, or was the head shaped differently? We're going to dive into all that and finally give you guys what you want, because I know that several of you have been asking about that for a while. That's enough.
We aim to please. Yeah, that's all this month. I mean, that's
this week.
That's this week, yeah.
Those are the next six streams. Those are the next 6 streams. So
yeah, there's only a week left in the month.
Yeah. Casey, is there anything that you want to plug that you guys have coming up or doing, or for people to look out for before we close out?
Well, not really. I mean, we'll probably have some stuff this weekend. We are going to the Creation Museum up in Kentucky with Telltale Atheist.
I'm so envy. I want to go.
Did you go to Dinosaur Adventureland, because it is in your home state?
It is not yet. We're trying to plan a trip for that too. We've got like basically a trip a month planned, and we're doing a lot of stuff this year with Genetically Modified Skeptic, Telltale Atheist, Holy Kool-Aid. So this trip we're going up to the Creation Museum with Telltale Atheist, and then a little later in the year we're going to go to the Ark Encounter with Telltale, GM Skeptic, and Holy Kool-Aid, all of us together. So that'll be a whole lot of fun, and we're going to try not to get kicked out. I'm pretty sure Holy Kool-Aid is going to get us kicked out.
Yeah, you know what? I said the same thing. Look, I don't know how anybody would not break up hysterically laughing and not get kicked out. But whatever. Hey, you know what?
And then we're going to Dinosaur Adventureland.
Yeah. Oh, wow. And so the other thing.
Let's go visit Kent. I'm down with that.
We are.
Yeah.
We are.
So it's 4 hours. It's 4 hours from us. So, I mean, we plan to go. I just don't know when yet.
And I'm
and then the only other.
You.
Yeah. It's 4 hours south of us. So the other thing is, you told people to go watch that video. If you want to go watch the video, I will tweet it, the link to it. I did put it in the chat, but that goes by fast. So I tweeted it out at GE_Kaitlyn. So if you want to follow me there, I'm putting it there right now.
Yeah, we'll obviously put the links in the video description for the people who watch this afterwards.
Yeah. Well, this was fantastic. Any last words from anyone? Are you sure that you two don't want to take a last minute dig at each other just so it feels right?
No, I have no. I like her. She. You know what? I can't help it.
Oh,
she's bubbly. She's entertaining. I like what she says.
What a disappointment.
I mean, we don't agree on everything. Fine. We don't have to. I'm actually more curious about what.
So boring.
I know, it's true. But I'm more curious about what Frankie's going to be doing for his debate. Now I'm really kind of. I'm looking forward to this. I want to hear this debate. I really do.
You are going to.
What do you got planned for this, Frankie?
You're gonna be here, Steve.
I know.
Yeah.
I know, but I'm like, really? This is going to be like an actual discussion about pot.
You baffle me, Steve. I swear, you baffle me.
I know. It's the simple things.
With that, ladies and gentlemen,
shalom.
Take care of each other. I try to be like.